Salute, salute. Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know if y'all can hear me out there. Can y'all hear me out there? Salute to everybody in the building, man. What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? Let me know when y'all can hear me. Hold on. I gotta find which one of these I'm finna turn off real quick. One of them gotta go. One of them gotta go, y'all. I don't know which one of them it is yet. Let me see which one is which. They won't let me click in. All right. Okay, hold up. Let me see something. All right, that's the one I want to keep. That's the first one. All right, so that means this one is the one I'm getting rid of. Hold on. Yeah, we do it like that. Bam. It should do it. Why does it still say it's up there? That's not so. I want it right here. Salute to everybody in the building. What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? Let me see something. I wonder why it's doing that. It's gonna make me keep it. I don't want it. Hey, what's up, y'all? Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Hold on. Trying to get it together over here, y'all. Trying to get it together over here. Got some stuff going that I don't particularly want right now. Hold on. Let me see something. All right, yeah, we in here. What's up, Miss Pooh Bear? What's up, Lanice? What's up, Positive Vibes? What's up, what's up, what's up, y'all? Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? We got a couple things going on, y'all. It seems like the Pete Hegseth situation has got worse, y'all. Shout out to Miss Pooh Bear for that super sticker. She said, salute me here, IGT mods and everything news. Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know if y'all can hear me out there. Can y'all hear me out there? Can y'all hear me? You know, let me know if y'all can hear me out there. Can y'all hear me? Is everything coming through smooth? Can y'all hear me out there? Thank you, Lanice, for the jewels. Shout out to the love, man. Appreciate that as well. Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know. I'm looking in the comments to see if y'all can. Yes, we hear you. Okay. All right. What's up, Mr. Jack Cam? All right. Yeah, man. It seems like, you know, this whole situation with Pete Hegseth has got even worse than yesterday, you know, to the point to where the Pentagon press secretary had to come out and basically give a whole speech about this second strike thing, guys. It's a lot of discussion going on. We got Mark Kelly basically firing more shots at Pete, man. It's crazy out here, y'all. I was like, wow. You know, we watched yesterday, you know, Hegseth sit beside Trump and basically, you know, take accountability for the first strike, but did not take responsibility for the second strike, right? You know, and people was, you know, basically saying that he was trying to cast the blame off on somebody else. Refresher for the ones that missed it yesterday. You know, this is what Hegseth said yesterday as he sat there beside Trump and basically said he was not the one that gave the second order that took out the survivors of that boat strike. Let's go here.
Which Marco laid out and which laid out, we've got 20 million people invading our country over 4 years. We don't know where they're coming from. That includes Tren de Aragua and cartels and violent criminals. They bring drugs, and you mentioned it, Mr. President, poisoning, an intentional poisoning of the American people, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So the president had the courage to designate these cartels as designated terrorist organizations. Now, a number of us here served in the military and spent 20 years fighting terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIS on the other side of the world. How do you treat Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Do you arrest them and treat them, pat them on the head and say, don't do that again? Or do you end the problem directly by taking a lethal, kinetic approach? And that's the way President Trump has authorized the War Department to look at these cartels. And I wish everybody could be in the room watching our professionals like Mitch Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, and others at JSOC and SOCOM and other commanders. The deliberative process, the detail, the rigorous, the intel, the legal, the evidence-based way that we're able to, with sources and methods that we can't reveal here, Make sure that every one of those drug boats is tied to a designated terrorist organization. We know who's on it, what they're doing, what they're
Hey,
carrying.
Bobby.
All these white bales are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that. A lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately.
Admiral Bradley, guys, this is where he cast the blame on someone else besides himself, and basically says he was not even in the room when the command for the second strike was given. A lot of people say hogwash.
Sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press
the fog of war.
Understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything.
He says he did not say unalive everybody. I just want to make sure we getting all these points in, guys, that you don't miss nothing.
Not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this.
What's up with it,
because
713?
what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them, and we will stop the poisoning of the American people.
And Mr. Secretary, on the second strike, you said it happened more than an hour after the first. Did I hear it correctly?
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of time.
You went off the road, is what you're saying.
I already spoke.
Bobby says stay asleep.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on.
All right, so that was like a refresher for y'all. The ones that wasn't here yesterday, that didn't hear the actual speech, that's basically what Hexef said. He said he was not responsible for that second strike, and that it was on somebody else's hand. He basically didn't do it. But he caught a lot of backlash, y'all. People said it was hard to believe that he was not in the room when that order was given for that second strike. Check this out.
A lot of deflection going on there, just his body language as he talks about this. And then he uses the term fog of war as if that absolves you from responsibility, does it?
No, listen, it is September 2nd. This is the opening strike on a highly controversial air campaign that has never really been done before by the American military. And you have the Secretary of Defense saying that he didn't stick around for the whole strike. He had a meeting to go to, and he couldn't see the entire thing through. You were the Secretary of Defense. You can push the meeting, and you can stay for the strike, because lo and behold, conveniently, at the very moment that he walks out, apparently a war crime occurs.
A war crime.
He just said there in those clips is fascinating. First of all, any, defense or other narrative that this boat was still operable is gone, because Secretary Hegseth just said it was on fire. And you have the President of the United States saying something that you would expect the President of the United States to say, which is that he's relying on his Secretary of Defense for this information. Well, guess what? Pete Hegseth doesn't have that information for you, because he walked out of the room. And now there's a 4-star general with a highly respectable career in the special operations community who's going to be left holding the bag.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like they really are throwing him under the bus.
Throwing them
let's
under the
read what
bus,
George
y'all.
Will, a
Ooh,
conservative.
it seems like they're throwing them under the bus, they say. Let's take time to double tap that screen, guys. Get the likes up. Double tap the screen, like what it says on your screen. All you have to do if you're on a mobile device is double tap the screen or click the three dots in the right-hand corner and hit that thumbs up, guys, if you don't mind. Get the likes up. Let's double tap the screen if you're on a mobile device or click those three dots and hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel. Also, subscribe to the channel if you are new.
Columnist said about this whole thing. He says, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth seems to be a war criminal without a war, an interesting achievement. The killing of the survivors by this moral slum of an administration should nauseate Americans. A nation incapable of shame is dangerous, not least to itself. I would have expected, despite there's all this back and forth about who ordered it, who didn't. Let's put all that aside. They're in that room. They're asked about it. We know there's a second strike. Why didn't either one of those men say, we're going to look into this? Something like that should never happen in an engagement by the United States military. Why?
Abby, I can't even understand any of this Venezuela thing. To me, it is absolutely cuckoo crazy. Look, Nicolas Maduro and
Already
Hugo
6:30.
Chavez before him are corrupt, sadistic, cruel, thieves, authoritarian, anti-American son of a bitch. And what
Whoa.
Donald Trump is doing is attempting regime change. I will be incredibly happy, elated, if Nicolas Maduro goes away. I don't care which way. But the things that Donald Trump is claiming regarding Venezuela, that they are flooding the U.S. with drugs, that simply is not true. The fentanyl that is killing all of these Americans is coming through Mexico. The people that the preferred route for drug dealers is through the Pacific and then through Central America, including the country of Honduras, where he just pardoned the former president that did flood American streets with cocaine that killed thousands and thousands of Americans. And then, he's claiming that Venezuela opened up prisons and insane asylums and released all these people into the United States. That actually did happen. It happened in 1980 in Cuba, and we all saw it happen. I was in Miami when the Mariel boat lift happened. There is zero evidence that that has happened in Venezuela. What happens? He wants to do regime change. He wants his Panama with Noriega. He wants his Grenada moment like Ronald Reagan did. But he can't say that it's regime change. One, because it's highly unpopular with the American people. And because, two, it would require the authorization of Congress.
Well, and we're not even close operationally, right? We're not even on land yet. And we've already got a war crime, national embarrassment on our hands. We haven't even proceeded with the actual land operation.
And how much of the U.S. Navy arsenal is off the coast of Venezuela
absolutely,
right now?
for some kilos of cocaine?
Well,
give me a break.
Batia, I'd raised this yesterday. I think one of the big question marks here is this a pretext for regime change? And if it is, what is our level of engagement going to be in that? And should they be transparent about it? I think those are really important questions for Americans who care. If they're on those battleships in the Caribbean, if they are living, there are many Americans in the Caribbean who could be, in the area. As Trump has said, the airspace around Venezuela is closed. So don't we deserve answers on some of those things? Even on a basic level, don't we deserve answers about who these men were? If he knew exactly what they were and what they were doing, don't we deserve answers about that?
I definitely want to know if regime change is happening, and I will be very angry if it happens and I was not informed. So the answer to all those questions, I always want more information, but I feel like we're in the midst of another Russiagate hoax. There was a group of Democrats who said you can refuse illegal orders, and now they are out there in search of a war crime, and there absolutely isn't one. So what happened was the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel issued a classified legal opinion authorizing these U.S. military strikes. At that point, the Department of, I guess I have to call it War, issued the directive that we were going to start hitting them. At that point, Admiral Bradley gave the order for the first strike. Pete Hegseth watched it. The boat caught fire. Now, in order to establish that a war crime happened, we have to know that the boat was completely destroyed. The military action, which was authorized by the DOJ, under Article 2 powers, which Trump has the legal right to issue, that boat was destroyed, was no longer a threat, and that there were 2 people clinging to it for life who are also no longer a threat. We do not know that yet.
You don't really need to know
what
that.
happened
I tend to disagree. I mean, we do have a JAG lawyer who has a lot of experience with military
please tell
strikes.
me what am I getting
I think it's a really
wrong here? Because if the boat was only disabled and not destroyed, it is still a legitimate military target.
Hold on. Here's the main issue: is it legal when if there are survivors clinging to whatever? Is it legal to then strike them again? And maybe we don't know the full answer to that question, but that is the central issue here.
Can I just?
That's the central
issue. The question is not actually that. The question is
the question is actually that.
Because the whole thing hangs on whether the boat is still a military target or not.
The issue when it comes to the legality
on it when they hit it the first time.
Did Hegseth commit a war crime, guys? Let me know in the chat. Do y'all think he committed a war crime? Let me know.
Issue when it comes to the legality of the second strike, not the first one.
It's not whether there are people there.
It is
whether
what happens
still a legitimate target.
No. It's what happens to survivors.
No, it's not.
And we don't know.
Wrong.
I think I'm going to acknowledge that there are things about this that we don't know. That we don't know where they were, what was the state of the boat, all that stuff. Sure, we don't know who gave the order, but I do think that is the central question, Margaret, that needs to be answered.
The question is not the existence of the survivors; it's whether the boat is still a legitimate military target.
Margaret, hold on a second.
I want Margaret to weigh in on
that. That's simply not true. Look,
why?
Because you cannot shoot survivors of a shipwreck that's clinging on for dear life in the middle of the ocean.
You're using the word shipwreck to hide the distinction that I am
I'll use Secretary Hegseth's word.
Shipwreck is in the red.
Yes, but I'm saying the whole point here is it still a legitimate target or not? If they can get on that debris and call for the rest of the narco terrorists to show up and save them, it is still a legitimate military target.
Okay, I'm going to defer to the expert here. Go ahead,
factually, this just doesn't pass the laugh test. You're talking about 2 people stranded in the middle of the ocean, and you think we're going to call for that?
Can you please say, is that distinction between whether it is disabled or whether it is destroyed?
Can we back up a little bit? Because I just want to explain sort of how an airstrike is prosecuted, right? Because first you have a target in the first place, and the target could be an individual, the target could be a building, the target could be a boat. And so this is why we need, and we talked about this the other night, we need a full investigation. What was the target? Because I thought the target was the drugs. Those are gone if the boat's on fire. Maybe the target is these so-called terrorists.
The target was the boat, according to all the reporting.
I think we should wait for an investigation to see what the target actually was. If the target was a boat, then we're in this place where we are using military force to.
I see a lot of y'all saying no proof that drugs were even on the boat.
And can I make one more point? Because this entire hypothetical, entire hypothetical that you're posing hinges on whether or not they could call somebody to be rescued. But if they're in a scenario where they need to call somebody to be rescued, they are shipwrecked.
Great point. Great point. Hold up real quick. We got somebody that says Navy vet here. Our laws state that if a boat is destroyed and if there are survivors clinging to the craft, they are deemed disarmed, and we don't double tap, period. Meaning we don't send out a second strike to take them out. So from a Navy vet says, hey, this was absolutely against the law, basically a war crime in his opinion, guys. I don't know how y'all feel about it. I'm just saying, I'm just reporting on it, but that's most definitely what he said. Do y'all agree with what he said? And a lot of people are saying there is no proof that there were drugs even on the boats. No one ever tested for drugs. You hear him? Hey, man, I'm just saying, but it's more on this situation because everybody's talking about it, guys. All right, so let me go here. I'm gonna pop up another video. Senator Kelly basically responded to what Pete Hegseth had to say yesterday, as he said, beside Trump. Check this out. Now, he was the one that we watched yesterday that said Trump was trying to unalive him. He basically goes and says, hey, man, I think that Pete Hegseth needs to be sitting in front of Congress, basically explaining his actions. If anybody needs to be being questioned, it should be him. Check this out.
Comments from Pete Hegseth saying that the military won't follow unlawful orders, which of course is part of what he's been attacking 6 Democrats for saying in a video. Well, it's also the same thing Hegseth is investigating Senator Mark Kelly for, threatening to court.
Let's take time to get those likes up, guys. We should have over 100 by now. Simply double tap your screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, man. We're talking about Pete Hegseth and his alleged war crime, if he committed one. You know, we getting all the details in right now. Make sure y'all double tap that screen, guys. We got over 400 people and only got 42 likes. So let's get the likes up. All you have to do is double tap your screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. I would appreciate it. It helps out the channel, guys. Let's get the likes up.
Marshal him over it. Here's what K-File found from Hegseth in 2016.
I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes.
So hold up.
Something that is just
so this is Pete Hegseth a little while back and his views on war crimes. Check this out. They saying that he's singing a different tune these days than he was singing back then.
Hegseth in 2016.
I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely
Break Thor, I don't play with nobody over here. You know what I'm saying? Let's remove his comment. Any other outrageous comment talking about like you dislike my video or whatever you said, we'll get you deported, guy, on the nearest rocket ship, into a trip that you should never return from. LOL. LOL that.
Awful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
He's talking about not following unlawful orders. Does that sound familiar?
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
That is, of course, the video 6 Democrats released 2 weeks ago saying that the military can refuse unlawful orders, which Trump said was seditious behavior punishable by death when it came out. Senator Mark Kelly will join me in just a moment to respond. But first, K-File's Andrew Kaczynski is out front. So, Andrew, incredible reporting that you've done here. A stunning video you uncovered. This is Hegseth talking about unlawful orders as the Democrats that he's now accusing of being seditious. What have you found here?
Yeah, well, Aaron, this video of Pete Hegseth is from 2016 when he was a Fox News contributor. And it's important because it shows him saying the military would refuse unlawful orders from a president. And this is the very idea he is now attacking Democrats for repeating. Now, Aaron, if that was a core military value in 2016, the question is, why is promoting it suddenly being portrayed as seditious by Hegseth in 2025? Military law obviously has not changed. What has changed here is the politics around it. There's a different commander-in-chief. Then it was Barack Obama. And back then, in that same event, Hegseth was actually very, very critical of Obama, with Hegseth arguing that Americans deserved a commander-in-chief, talking about Obama. That was
What's up, the
of
purple
the military's loyalty. Listen to him here.
Well, Purple One, you have been over here many of times. You know, we most definitely just don't stick to CNN. We use multiple news sources. So, you know, no need to talk about the credibility of CNN, you know, when we use multiple news sources as well as the words of the people themselves. So let's not do that, the Purple One.
But I've heard veterans say, hey, I don't want my kids to join this military today. I can understand under Barack Obama in some ways with the rules of engagement and the culture, but I still want to believe and hope that there are plenty of Americans who understand what this country represents, that are willing to put their lives on the line, and families that understand the importance of that to encourage their son or daughter. I just hope we get a commander-in-chief befitting of that loyalty.
Andrew, I know you reached out to the White House. You reached out to the defense.
We need 25 more likes fast, guys. Double tap that screen or click the 3 dots in the right-hand corner. Hit that thumbs up. For some reason, we stuck at 73. Get the likes moving, guys. Get the likes up. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. I wouldn't be asking y'all to hit the like button if it didn't help out the channel. It most definitely helps out the channel, and most definitely keeps me wanting to bring y'all this information that I find online, man. So please take time to hit that like button if you don't mind. Double tap your screen or click the 3 dots and hit that thumbs up. We should be at like 200, 300 likes by now. Let's get the likes up. We only at 84. Let's get the likes all the way up before I start playing rap music. And I know y'all don't want to hear that. I'm just saying, I got some rap music over here for you that I can play, in place of all of this. I'm just saying, let's get the likes up. Let's show the channel some respect by hitting that like button. Double tap your screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots and hit that thumbs up button if you do not mind. Yeah, we at 95. We need to pass 100, guys. Let's get the likes up. Yeah, this is a very crazy situation. Yeah, positive vibes. I got some rap music loaded up over here, that'll send y'all into the stratosphere. Y'all will be mad, just like I'm getting mad that y'all not hitting my like button. Let's get those likes up. What about the credibility of Fox so-called news when they produce their own fake trials and promote televising it as if that was a real trial? Dang, they calling the trials fake. Lord have mercy. Yeah, the like button is free. It don't cost you not $1. I haven't asked y'all for $1 yet. All I asked y'all to do is hit the like button. Let's get the likes up. They just turned the 2 people into the boat into shark bait. Now everybody knows that the shark bait is great. If they're, oh my goodness. Can anybody name a time when CNN made up a fake trial and hired a disbarred judge to play a TV judge? Okay, let's go. Yeah, we need more likes. Let's get the likes up. You know what I'm saying? Let's get the likes all the way. I tell you what, y'all think I'm playing? Let me find me a rap song over here. Y'all they finna get out of here the fastest. I ain't playing. Let's get the likes up. Hey, Ballin, they think I'm playing, boy. They finna be mad. Ooh-wee, man. I'm telling you. Let's get the likes up, guys. Never have y'all ever seen rap music on the rap music being played on a news channel. If you not like the video, leave, gosh, so we can get back to the show. Absolutely. Yeah, okay, all right. Thank y'all for hitting that like button, man. I appreciate it. It helps out the channel because y'all finna get some rap music. Oh my goodness.
Defense Department, or as they now call themselves, the Department of War, about this video. What did they tell you?
Yeah, Aaron, we did reach out to both the White House and the Pentagon about this newly surfaced video that we found. Now, Kinsley Wilson, that's a Pentagon spokesperson, told us that Hegseth has been clear and made clear there are already procedures for unlawful orders, telling CNN, quote, the orders being given to our military under President Trump are full, and the despicable video of the seditious 6 urging our troops to defy their chain of command was a politically motivated influence operation by elected officials aimed at sowing distrust and chaos in our armed forces. We also reached out to the White House, Aaron, and in a lengthy statement to CNN, Anna Kelly, that's a White House spokesperson, said that Hegseth has been entirely consistent in his position then, and added that Democrats are trying to deliberately manufacture doubt where none exists. They told us, quote, these lawmakers sow doubt in a clear chain of command, which is reckless, dangerous, and deeply irresponsible for an elected official. It's asinine that CNN cares more about the secretary's uncontroversial remarks than those of elected officials who are putting military service members in harm's way by telling them to disobey their commander-in-chief. Aaron?
All right, Andrew Kaczynski, thank you very much. Out front now, Democratic Senator Mark Kelly, as promised. And Senator Kelly, I want to play again for you what Andrew Kaczynski found and unearthed here, exactly what Pete Hegseth said. Here he is.
I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
So, Senator, what do you think of that?
Well, Aaron, I think he's correct, and it's exactly what we said. But when we said it, Pete Hegseth now, said 8 years later, or 9 years later, he says what we said was false and reckless. And I think it begs the question, what has changed? And it's pretty obvious what has changed is we have an unqualified Secretary of Defense who only cares about sucking up to this president and loyalty to this president.
Thank you for the gift.
That's the difference. It's who's commander-in-chief. What we said was uncontroversial. The White House sort of confirmed that. They said his uncontroversial remarks, they were the same as ours. I mean, this is so ridiculous. And what the president wants to do now is intimidate us and stop us from talking, which is not consistent with our Constitution. And beyond that, Aaron, he said we should be hanged for what we said, executed for what we said. And what we said was exactly the same thing that Pete Hegseth said in 2016.
Wow.
Sedition, right, can be punishable by death. I just want to note the Pentagon spokesperson today, in the response to Andrew Kaczynski, said, referred to you as the despicable video of the
thank you,
six.
Andrea.
Their chain of
Thank
command.
you.
That's how
It's all good, Andrea.
today.
At least you tried.
Secretary
Thank you.
is
Make sure you
investigating
subscribe
right
to
now.
the channel.
I think it's the Secretary of Navy has till early next week, right, to finish an investigation into you. I mean, has anybody reached out to you? Have they tried to talk to you or interview you for this investigation?
They have not. The only notification I've received about this was Pete Hegseth's tweet, which says everything you need to know about this guy. He's not serious. He cares more about views on his Twitter account than the law, about process. He is an unserious.
Let's misspell those cuss words in the chat, guys.
Should never have been allowed 1,000 yards from the White House or from the Pentagon, and now he's the Secretary of Defense. And you see the consequences of that. We're seeing that in how this operation is being handled in Venezuela. There are serious consequences when you put unqualified people in very important positions.
So, the talk of sedition and, obviously Congressman Crow had, played some of the horrible threats that he has received as a result of this. I know that you and your wife, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, have seen a real surge in threats because of the response from the Trump administration to this video. What kind of threats are you getting? What things are you hearing?
Well, we get more threats now in a single day than we would get in months. And they're graphic, they're violent. They're not only against me, but they're against Gabby. And we're no strangers to political violence. She was shot in the head, meeting with her constituents. And Donald Trump was nearly assassinated. He should know. And he called out political violent rhetoric and said it should stop. And he didn't even make it to Thanksgiving before he's calling for us to be hanged. Have we ever heard a president of the United States calling for the execution of members of Congress? And Aaron, we can't normalize this. That's one of the problems here, is that Donald Trump is so singularly unqualified for this job as president of the United States. And the things he says is so ridiculous, people are starting to get comfortable with it. And he does it for a reason. He wants to shut people up, but he's not going to shut me up. I'm not going to be intimidated by him or Pete Hegseth and his threats to court-martial me. I mean, the only way, this ends is for them to, turn around and try to focus on the things that matter for the American people. The president should be focused on things like, costs and the cost of healthcare and groceries, the things that are affecting everyday Americans that they need some help with.
And what he did today, of course, as you point out, though, was talk about these strikes that he announced he's doing in Venezuela. Hasn't done them yet, but he announced that he is doing them as a de facto reality.
Y'all really feel like Senator Kelly is a traitor? Lord, have mercy.
Also said maybe in Colombia. And we've heard the changing story on the strike in the boat in the Caribbean and what Pete Hegseth knew from September 2nd when he went on Fox News and said he watched the strike and he was so confident. And now he's saying actually has a lot of other things to do and he didn't have time to watch the whole strike. What are you hearing about Hegseth standing within the military right now?
Well, I can't imagine it's good, and it's his stock is certainly going way down with Republicans in the United States Senate. He said he watched the whole video. He made like he was in charge of the whole strike until things started going sideways, and then he decides his best way out is to throw the admiral under the bus. That isn't leadership, but I'm not surprised. I mean, this guy is not a leader. He is by far the least qualified Secretary of Defense we've ever had. He runs around the stage talking about lethality and warrior ethos and hunting and killing people.
We got over 1,000 in the building, guys. Let's double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen or click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up. It helps out the channel. Let's get the likes up, guys. Double tap that screen if you don't mind.
That is not the words of a responsible Secretary of Defense. He should be focused on equipping people and training them, making sure people follow the rule of law. And he is in every way the opposite of the person we want in such a position of responsibility. I mean, this guy is in the command authority for the release of nuclear weapons. And, he spends half the day tweeting memes.
All right. So, a lot of controversy, guys. Just like I said, a lot of controversy has came, basically following this situation, to where they are basically saying that, hey, Pete Hegseth may have committed a war crime. Here's more on this situation. And then after this, I have the press conference that the Pentagon put on, about this situation as well. Hold on. Let's get there. All right. So now they're talking about the situation with the second strike to the boat. Let's go.
Mika, if only Pete Hegseth had listened to the Democrats.
Yeah.
And if only the Admiral had listened to the Democrats when they put that video out a couple of weeks ago. And also back, I don't know, what was it? It's everything blurs together. But
April 2016.
Maybe it was April 2016.
Yeah.
A lovely time.
Only thing different was a different president.
A young whippersnapper came out and said this.
I do think
they are basically showing this video over and over and over again,
If
guys.
you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
It's an ethos.
It is an ethos.
It's the war ethos.
It is a standard.
Yeah, he talks about that war ethos.
It's funny how Elizabeth Buemiller, as they say in broadcast news, it's funny how those lines keep moving. Because that Pete Hegseth saying the same exact thing in 2016 that Mark Kelly and Democrats who were vets said a couple weeks ago.
Well, what's extraordinary to me is, I covered the Pentagon for 4 years. This is just not how the chain of command is supposed to work. I mean, I used to have this, as an executive, you share the credit and you take the blame. It's very powerful in the military. And these guys, the two of them, the top civilians, the leaders of the American military, basically the president is commander-in-chief, and Hegseth as the civilian leader of the military, the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, as he prefers. This is their responsibility, and it's just astonishing to watch as they both say, well, Trump is now saying, well, I wouldn't have agreed with it was a good he did it, but I wouldn't have gone with the second strike. And they're dissembling. It's obvious, you can see it so clearly. From what I can tell and what I can hear, Hegseth has a defender of one person. That's the president of the United States. He's not popular at the White House. He is certainly not popular on the Hill, not popular among many Republicans. So the question is, if this happens again, will Trump stick with him? It's a big question. I'm not sure how great his future is. It might take a while.
Yeah, and as you said, Elizabeth, not really liked inside the White House. He wasn't even liked during the transition because, again, they got tired of him giving incomplete questions. They kept getting blindsided, not respected on Capitol Hill. I mean, it's stunning. But by the way, I just got a text from a friend in Meridian, Mississippi, who just texted me and said, Joey, what's going on your show today? I just woke up. So I feel like I have to play this clip again. Can you play this clip from my friend in Meridian, Mississippi? He just woke up and didn't see it. Pete Hegseth,
I do
2016.
think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
Wow. A guy that just got hired in Baton Rouge said he had a rough night last night. Would like to see it again. Can you play that one more time for us?
All
For our
right.
friend in Baton
They
Rouge.
is playing. They is making him eat his own words,
for
guys.
abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander in chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
Exact
Okay.
same thing
Well,
that we heard.
They making him eat his
Warren Kelly
words.
and the other Democrats a couple weeks ago that the president said you should be lynched for. And
it's the military code.
It's a military code.
It's good to know about
Well, it's what the U.S. military code says. It's
done his homework.
Geneva Conventions. But what concerns me is I wonder, will the president say that he should be lynched? Will the president say that he should be called back and be court-martialed? And so it's interesting because he right there said the same exact thing that the president said Mark Kelly should be lynched for.
Yeah, first, hello to our friends in the Central Time Zone, just waking up
They're just waking
tuning
up.
in. We appreciate that.
And we're probably going to have to play it a lot more because a lot of friends waking up.
One by one.
Across the fruited plains.
One by one. We appreciate it very much.
Good.
The context here very different. Of course, President Obama was in office in April 2016. There were concerns about his use of drones and such, and
Right.
Pete Hegseth
For good reason.
weighing in on that. I suspect that President Trump will have a different reaction this time around to this clip. And it's an interesting moment. I've talked to people in the White House right now. We saw it yesterday, even in that somewhat sleepy and very long cabinet meeting. Trump was mostly defending Hegseth. He kept his distance from it, saying he didn't know what happened, but said, well, Pete said this and Pete said that. But Donald Trump is one of the few people in this administration, Richard, who likes Pete Hegseth, as Joe has said, and we've been talking about for a few weeks now. And a bad week for Pete Hegseth is about to get worse. Remember Signalgate, when Pete Hegseth tested classified plans on Signal?
Wait, I'm a little foggy because I'm following my text from my friend. Now, was this where he went on a public app and said, it's kind of like Martin Sheen in the Dead Zone, gentlemen, the missiles are flying. In this case, he was saying we're going to be launching.
Right, and I think Jeffrey Goldberg
using a publicly available app to detail those plans. And Jeffrey Goldberg was sitting in the parking lot of a Safeway supermarket
in
suburban Virginia
right
and saw these classified war plans come in.
And by the way, these are the most classified where you are actually where men and women are about to go into combat.
But why was Jeffrey on it?
Their lives are at risk.
Planes are on their way.
The planes are on their way. You just couldn't do anything more reckless or irresponsible as far as putting people's lives in danger when they're about to go on a mission.
And the Pentagon's Inspectors General investigation into Signalgate, that report has been transmitted to the Hill and will be released this week. So Pete Hegseth, already under fire, now will have this as well. If there was ever a moment for the administration to turn the page on Pete Hegseth, Richard, it would seem like this could be it.
This could be it. This president, though, this time around, doesn't want to see Trump 1.0 repeated, so is obviously going to dig in as long as he can until he can't. So I think that's part of it. The other thing that I think is so interesting here, though, which is the tension between civilian leadership and the military. And if there's some distancing open up and this whole issue of unlawful orders, well, just say we have a domestic situation. And you have people saying we need to use the troops in this context rather than that. What I think the administration is opening up is a conversation in the military about just this. What do we do with orders that are on the edge of the law? And so I actually think we could have a massive breach in relations between the civilian leadership and the military if, for example, we see uniformed military thrown under the bus here in order to save civilians. I think the stakes here, as large as they are with the immediate incident, I think also will affect and potentially infect what happens going forward.
No, it's going to be terrible. Let's play Pete Hegseth one more time. Just
they is making him eat his words, guys.
About Pete Hegseth,
they playing that video over and over and over again.
Was it April 2016?
Yeah.
So it
was the fog of peace.
There's a fog of peace. Here's Pete Hegseth in 2016.
Let's take time to double tap that screen, guys. Get the likes up. We should be well over 200 by now. We at 173. Let's double tap that screen. If you're on a mobile device, click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. We need 30 more likes to be past 200, guys. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, guys.
I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful
All
orders.
right, we got our first deportee ready to get up out of here. Let's get Dunny, who doesn't take orders from me, right up out of here. You know what I'm saying? Moderators, let's send him on a trip on his favorite rocket ship, zooming through the sky. Dunny, bye-bye. We don't need you. See you later. You know what I'm saying? Have an unsafe trip on that rocket, man. If it blow up in the air, it's not my fault. You know, yeah, you just out of there. Let's get Dunny right up out of here, or Danny, or whatever his name is. You know what I'm saying? I call him Stupido. Let's get him right up out of here. You know what I'm saying? We'll holler at you. You just got deported.
Commander-in-Chief, there's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
All right. So okay. So all of this backlash, guys, all of this back and forth led the Pentagon to basically do a press conference, you know, and we most definitely got it. Let me pull it up here, you know, so we can see what Pete Hegseth, secretary, you know, has to say about this whole situation. Hold on, let me get to it real quick. Hold on. Hold up. Give me a second to pull it up real fast. Hold on. What did I do with it? Okay, I must have did. Hold on. Let me go back and pull it up real quick because I must have did something to it. Hold on real quick. Oh, they got Kelly. Okay, all right, hold on. Let's go here. Let's go back here with Senator Kelly once again popping up on another station, basically saying that they need to investigate Hegseth. Let's go.
Double tap strike.
The same one we was just watching.
What you were talking about?
Different one.
Because this is
this
is the kind of thing we were talking about. We were certainly concerned when you put somebody in charge of the Department of Defense who rises to a level of incompetence that I don't think we have seen in any government department. I mean, set aside the Secretary of, or the Department of Defense for a second. A guy who should have never been in this job, and you combine that with a president who talks about killing people, shooting protesters in the legs, who in 2016 said that the military would not refuse his orders even if they were illegal. So you put these two guys, you know, in charge of, you know, operations, and we were really, really concerned that something like this could happen. So we put out the video. Donald Trump's response to that was that we should be hanged, executed, for just saying to members of the military that they should follow the law. And, you know, now, unfortunately, because of Pete Hegseth, especially because of his incompetence, and members of the military are going to have to deal with this. This is a guy that talks about hunting and killing the enemy, about lethality, about warrior ethos, not about, well, you said what he said about rules of engagement, stupid rules of engagement. Rules of engagement are what the U.S. military lives by. This stuff is not new. I mean, the Geneva Conventions, you know, specify how we have to treat survivors. So the U.S. Navy got into this situation because of the incompetence of Pete Hegseth.
Senator, good morning. You're a decorated Navy pilot. I know you have reverence for the United States Navy, for Navy SEAL teams like the one that operated on September 2nd. I'm curious, with all we know now, what you've heard from the White House, even yesterday, what you've heard from Defense Secretary Hegseth, given your experience, your expert eye, what do you see here in this incident?
Well, I see something that seems very obviously not consistent with the laws of armed conflict, with the manual of war that DOD has published and what we've operated under. So I'm really concerned, and we have to have an investigation. We've got to get all the details. I don't put a tremendous amount of trust in this administration to give us all the information. But we do know from Pete Hegseth's own words, he said he was there, he was watching it live. So that means he is the senior most member of a team who is in the operational chain of command. He's responsible. And I find it really
Kelly says that Hegseth is responsible.
The Department of Defense immediately starts to blame others.
Senator, so Secretary Hegseth He seems to think his job involves just swaggering around, basically. He calls himself the Secretary of War. He's not the Secretary of Defense, he's the Secretary of War. He talks this sort of macho lexicon. But we kind of knew this about him, didn't we? Wasn't this known before he was confirmed?
Absolutely.
So what are you hearing from or getting from your Republican colleagues in the Senate who voted to confirm this man, knowing who he was?
Well, generally, people do not like to admit when they're wrong, especially politicians.
If you're not subscribed to the channel, guys, make sure you take time to subscribe to this channel, guys. This is Everything News. We report on everything that we see that we feel like will be of substance to you on the news, man. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, man. Turn your notification bell on to all so you don't miss anything whenever Everything News goes live.
Especially ones that lack a spine to stand up to anybody. But I am hearing a little bit of regret from them. I mean, you hear it.
Yeah.
They know they should have never voted for this guy, that he's incompetent, that he shouldn't have been 1,000 yards from that building.
Not 1,000 yards, but how much damage can he do to
He
the
can do a lot of, well, this
institution?
is the kind of damage you see.
Yeah.
I mean, he is basically, set the stage and the environment for pretty awful things like this to happen. I mean, there is no reason why you execute survivors in the water. That is against the law. Yeah. They're going to say, well, we were just trying to take out the boat. Well, what you do is you go rescue the 2 survivors,
right,
and then you sink the boat.
The boat.
It's pretty obvious. The boat's not going anywhere. The boat's going to stay in the water. So they're going to kind of talk themselves in circles. Hegseth is trying to blame other people. He was in the room. I think more is going to come out about what was actually said, in that room. And, the leader of the military, which is Pete Hegseth right now, should bear some of the responsibility here. But as I said in that video, with my 5 colleagues, members of the military have a responsibility to not follow illegal orders. And this is the kind of thing we were talking about, not this specifically. We were just looking forward and saying, hey, we've got this, this environment that has been set up by this president and this Secretary of Defense where something really awful could happen.
So, Senator, you are certainly right that the administration has not done much in the way of internal investigations at this point of this year. But we are hearing from some of your Republican colleagues in the Senate, Senator Wicker, chief among them, say, wait a minute, we need to get to the bottom of what happened here. I assume you're heartened by that. Tell us, please. But also, what are some of the questions they should be asking? What are some of the questions that the Senate needs to get answers for?
Well, the first thing we need to do is interview everybody that was in the room with Secretary Hegseth and Admiral Bradley. We need to get some more information from the General Counsel of the Department of Defense. He came and briefed us, several weeks ago about this specific strike. He didn't share all the information with us. As I recall, he didn't say that there was a, second weapon used. We asked a bunch of questions. They seemed to me to be sort of evasive. Their legal analysis about this entire operation has a bunch of holes in it. So I want to see the video. I want to see whatever transcript they have about what was said in the room, at the time. I want to see the written order. We haven't seen that yet. The legal analysis for the overall operation should be made public. There's no reason why the American people shouldn't see that. So there needs to be a transparency. This president has said they were going to be the most transparent, White House, and Pete Hegseth has said DOD is going to be transparent, but then he kicks out or requires, members of the press to leave. We need to, shine a pretty bright light on what happened here and get to the bottom of it. And people need to be held accountable. And I feel awful for members of the United States Navy. I served in the Navy for 25 years. I've been involved in operations like this. I've sunk 2 ships myself in the first Gulf War. The stuff like this should not happen. It's pretty obvious that you do not execute survivors who are clinging onto a side of a ship.
Senator, Admiral Bradley gets enormously high marks from members of the military who I have spoken with. What do you think went through his mind? What went through your mind when you read that statement of supposed support about Admiral Bradley from Secretary Hegseth?
Well, I mean, it seems to me, that he is, Pete Hegseth is trying to send a message that it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault, which is the exact opposite instinct of most leaders in every organization. Most leaders try to take responsibility for things that happen in their organization, and Hegseth is doing the exact opposite. I am not surprised. Yes, Admiral Bradley is revered by members of the SEAL teams. I know folks that served under him that think very highly of him. I feel really awful about this, and I hope the reporting on this is not true, and maybe there is some other kind of explanation, but it doesn't seem like that is the case. And folks, people need to be held accountable for their actions.
Senator, as you said, as a result of that video that you and your 5 colleagues put out reminding active duty troops not to execute illegal, keyword there, illegal orders given by commanders. The Pentagon, led by Pete Hegseth, says it's launched an investigation into you. Have you seen any evidence of that? Have you been interviewed? Have they tried to subpoena anything from you? What does that look like?
Well, what it looks like so far is a tweet from Pete Hegseth. That's how I've been notified. I guess they assumed I read the tweet. I mean, that's how ridiculous this Secretary of Defense is. My notification is a tweet. Says a lot about him. He doesn't care about process. He doesn't care about the law. He doesn't care about how things are supposed to be done. He cares about views on his Twitter account. I mean, that's how ridiculous and foolish this Secretary of Defense is.
Democratic member of the Armed Services Committee, retired Navy Captain Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. Thank you very much for coming on the show today. We appreciate it.
All right, so we got Senator Mark Kelly, guys, who's been very vocal ever since Trump and Hegseth basically said that they were going to launch an investigation into him. He has most definitely been very verbal about his disdain for Trump and everything that's going on, guys. All right, now to this Pentagon press briefing. Regarding the situation with the boat and the strikes, guys. Yeah, the Pentagon, sent out their press secretary to basically give a speech about everything that's going on, guys. Make sure you're double tapping that screen. That's how you hit the like button, or click those 3 dots in the right-hand corner and hit that thumbs up. And most definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new. It will be greatly appreciated. Let's most definitely get those likes up, guys. Once again, you double tap the screen in order to hit the like button. That's how you do it. All right, so here is the press conference from the Pentagon, guys.
Distrust and chaos in our armed forces. This rhetoric insults our warfighters who put their lives on the line every day to keep Americans safe. And it creates an environment where criminals feel emboldened to commit violent acts against them. Right now, over 2,200 National Guardsmen from all across the country are serving as a part of Joint Task Force DC, with an additional 500 on the way. Each one of them will continue working to ensure the safety of all who live, work, and visit the district. We will not lose sight of our mission. This targeting will only embolden our resolve. Our warriors are strong, and we will not back down until our capital and our cities are secure. Defending our homeland and rescuing America's greatest cities from endemic violence is the highest and best use of our military. I would also like to take a moment today to welcome all of you here to the Pentagon briefing room as official new members of the Pentagon Press Corps. We're glad to have you. Legacy media chose to self-deport from this building, and if you look at the numbers, it's pretty clear why no one followed them. National trust in these mainstream media outlets has cratered to 28%, the lowest ever recorded. The American people don't trust these propagandists because they stopped telling the truth. So we're not going to beg these old gatekeepers to come back, and we're not rebuilding a broken model just to appease them. Instead, we're welcoming new media outlets that actually reach Americans, ask real questions, and don't pursue a biased agenda. The public has moved on from the old model, and so will the Pentagon. This is the beginning of a new era. We look forward to working with you to keep the American people informed and to ensure transparency. In the interest of transparency, I want to provide an update on the department's operations against narco-terrorists in the Western Hemisphere. To date, there have been a total of 21 kinetic strikes on drug boats in our hemisphere, with 82 narco-terrorists killed. Each strike conducted against these designated terrorist organizations is taken in defense of vital U.S. national interests and to protect the homeland. Our operations in the Southcom region are lawful under both U.S. and international law, with all actions in compliance with the law of armed conflict. These actions have also been approved by the best military and civilian lawyers up and down the chain of command. A completely fake story in the Washington Post, now discredited by the New York Times, tried to mischaracterize these successful strikes in bad faith. It was an attempt to damage the secretary and the president, and the people saw through it. The phony Washington Post story even attributed statements to the secretary that were totally fabricated. He never said them. That is the epitome of fake news. As the White House confirmed yesterday, the decision to restrike the narco-terrorist vessel was made by Admiral Bradley, operating under clear and long-standing authorities to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States was eliminated. Secretary Hegseth stands behind Admiral Bradley 100%. Admiral Bradley made the right call, and unlike the previous administration, we have our warfighters back at this department. This department will defend our homeland. This is not a catchphrase, it is a commitment. And as the secretary said, when it comes to killing narco-terrorists, we have only just begun. Lastly, I would like to announce that the War Department has created a new division for strategic marketing that will be led by Abby Lower, who will hold the title of Deputy Assistant to the Secretary of War for Strategic Marketing. The division will be a new core function within public affairs and will complement our media and strategic engagement teams. The purpose of this new division is to create marketing campaigns that support the War Department's military recruitment efforts, providing a halo effect to the great work the military services are already doing to recruit our nation's warfighters. And with that, I'd be happy to take your questions. Yes, Caitlin.
Thanks, Kingsley. Can you talk about the autonomy that's given to the commanders who are carrying out these operations, like Admiral Bradley, to make decisions? Like in this case, I'm assuming the first strike took out the boat and any actions that followed. Can you talk about the autonomy they're given?
Absolutely. So the secretary has been very clear in every statement that we've released about these strikes that they are presidentially directed, and the chain of command functions as it should. And we make sure that commanders on the ground are taken, their positions are taken into account, and they are able to tell us and make decisions if they see things that need to be flagged. But at the end of the day, the secretary and the president are the ones directing these strikes, and any follow-on strikes like those which were directed by Admiral Bradley, the secretary 100% agrees with. Yes, Matt.
Kingsley, if Nicolas Maduro leaves Venezuela today, what role will the Department of War have in a post-Maduro Venezuela? And describe the process the administration will use to determine whether or not current members of the Venezuelan military or Venezuelan government.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, him.
Question. So the department has
gift.
a contingency plan for everything.
What's up,
we are a
Big?
planning organization. If anything were to happen around the world, we have a response planned and ready. So we stand at the president's beck and call, our commander in chief, to do what is needed. If called upon. And that will be what this department continues to focus on and continues to prepare for in regards to our ongoing operations in the Southcom region. Again, our focus is taking out narco-terrorists and rooting out that threat that is poisoning the American people. Every single boat that we strike saves 25,000 American lives. That is a crucial mission to protecting the homeland, and we're proud to be a part of it.
Just as a follow-up, quickly, so, following the departure of Saddam Hussein, there was this desire to name every Ba'athist a terrorist. Does the administration take the view that any person who served in the Venezuelan military or Venezuelan government is definitionally a narco-terrorist?
That would be a determination for the president to make, but I can tell you that every single person who we have hit thus far, who is in a drug boat carrying narcotics to the United States, is a narco-terrorist. Our intelligence has confirmed that, and we stand by it. Yes, Monica.
Thanks, Kingsley. I have two questions, if I may. For your first question regarding Sarah Beckstrom, the 20-year-old West Virginia National Guardswoman who was shot and killed, was her family offered an Arlington burial, and or will there be plans to do so?
I know that the White House is working that out, so they might be better to describe what the plans are for that. But this department will, of course, support in any way we can, and have been, in close contact with the family, and the secretary will continue to do so. So we'll keep you all updated on that.
Thank you. And my second question regarding Iran, there are reports that Iran's been planning on rebuilding its nuclear facilities. Iranian's president has said that it plans to rebuild its nuclear facilities with, quote, greater strength. Can you provide us on any sort of update on where that currently stands?
I can tell you that Operation Midnight Hammer was an absolute resounding success. Iran's nuclear capabilities were totally obliterated, and experts estimated that, it would take 2 years for them to recover. So thanks to President Trump's bold and swift action, we were able to dismantle that threat to the American people. And I think it was also a historic operation by virtue of the fact that there was a clear end state. We have seen this department get marred down in the Middle East in endless wars, in nation building. That has stopped under this president and this secretary. We now have a clear end state, a clear mission set, and Operation Midnight Hammer was a success in dismantling that. Yes, Laura.
Thanks so much for having me here today. Now that the president has started the process of designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign Islamic terrorist organization, will the Department of War still proceed with selling F-15 fighter jets to Qatar? And how will they be able to train Qatari pilots at their airbase in Idaho if Qatar is included in the designation?
Thank you for the question. We take very seriously our partnerships, and we always do thorough evaluations to make sure that they protect our intelligence, our operational security, and that they serve the best interests of the American people. The U.S. military has a longstanding partnership with Qatar, and we look forward to continuing that partnership at our airbase in Idaho. And I would just point out that for reference, the Mountain Home, Idaho airbase is not just Qataris that train there. There are also Singapore military folks that are there as well. So it is a base that we do a lot of foreign military training.
This is the Pentagon, guys. This is
those partnerships, and we'll continue to evaluate
the Pentagon
all
speaking
sure
on behalf of
that is the secretary's utmost priority.
But given the fact that the Qatari royal family and Qatar itself is the biggest financier, along with Turkey, of course, the financier of the Muslim Brotherhood, would that relationship and partnership be reevaluated since the designation could possibly include Qatar?
I'm not tracking any reevaluation at this time, but again, the secretary really keeps national security top of mind, and this administration does as well. So we will always make sure that American assets are protected. Yes.
Hi, David Zier, Real America's Voice. It's great to be here. I want to know if you could confirm any additional National Guard deployments under Title 10 in additional cities, and have any governors reached out for help under Title 32 as well? And how do you determine how National Guard troops, how many are armed?
Great question. So I don't have anything to announce at this time in terms of new deployments, but I can tell you that our mission set is critical. We are keeping American cities safe all across this country, and we are going to remain committed to that. These missions aren't going to stop in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in DC. We understand the urgent threat that is facing many of these cities, and the National Guard is proud to step in alongside our law enforcement partners to help with that. And I can confirm that everybody in DC is now armed, and a lot of our DC National Guardsmen are now also doing joint patrols with members of the police department here in DC. So their safety is, of course, top of mind, and we will continue to make sure that they're able to do their jobs in keeping all of our great Americans safe across our cities. Yes, Bradley.
We're now 90 days into these
What up, bros?
Venezuelan drug boat strikes. A growing number of members on Capitol Hill are getting their mettle up with regard to war powers. If they do move forward with some sort of war powers effort, will the administration seek to challenge the validity of the war powers resolution, or will it comply?
I wouldn't want to get ahead of the president's decision-making process in regard to Venezuela, but I can tell you what I mentioned earlier is that the department is a planning organization. We are always ready. We have plans for every single contingency, and we are going to make sure that when it comes to narco-terrorism, we're dismantling that throughout the Western Hemisphere, and you've seen that in the success of our strikes.
One follow-up, if I may. 53% in a recent CBS YouGov poll said they support the strikes on these drug boats, but 70% said no military operations within Venezuela. Nevertheless, members of Congress are increasingly calling for regime change there. What's the Department of War's message to those members of Congress?
The Department of War stands behind the president 100%, and we will execute on the orders that our commander-in-chief gives us, and we're proud to do so. That will continue. And again, any decision that is going to be made about certain military actions in the Western Hemisphere region will be the president's alone. Yes.
Todd Wood from CDM's Armed Forces Press. There's been a lot of reporting that, yes, it's about drugs in Venezuela, but also possibly about election fraud electronically. Do you have any comment on that? And also, are assets, we've heard that special operations aviation assets are exercising for direct action missions in that region. Can you confirm that at all?
On your first question, I would refer you to the State Department. I think they would probably be able to give you a better answer on that. But in terms of your second question, I can tell you that we are conducting training missions and exercises. We've got the forward aircraft carrier now that is down there in the Southcom region. And as I said, the department's a planning organization. So a big part of that planning is doing trainings and make sure that we're ready at a moment's notice to protect our interests and to protect the American people from narco-terrorism. Yes, RC.
Has there been a determination at this point from the Army Secretary on a Distinguished Service Medal for Specialist Sarah Beckstrom?
I would refer you to the Army for that. And if I hear anything, I will keep you posted. That would be wonderful news. Yes, James.
Hi, James O'Keefe. Nicholas Terza, branch chief here at the Pentagon.
What do y'all think about what she's saying, guys? What do y'all think about what the press secretary of the Pentagon is saying, guys?
Like this that work here. My question is, what steps is the Department of War taking to identify and address personnel who are in the self-described resistance movement?
Thank you for the question. That's why the work you all do is so important. This is a big building, and we want to make sure that we have the absolute best people working at it to protect Americans every single day. We don't take lightly what every single civilian and military person in this building do every single day. They do a lot of hard work, and we want to make sure that they're up to the task, that they're on board and willing to serve our commander-in-chief, who was elected by the whole of the American people to serve as our president. And we support him 100% here at the Department of War. That is our mission. That is our chain of command. So personnel is policy. The secretary has said that many times, and I know you all in this room are aware of that as well. That was really the crux of his speech at Quantico not long ago to the generals. Our people are our most important asset. So we will continue to make sure that our people are consistently putting America first. That's something we care very much about. Yes, Alex.
Thanks, Kinsley. Are there plans to host or hold more of these regular press briefings? And if so, how frequently?
Absolutely. We'd love to. It'd be great to get everybody in here. I know we have the Christmas holiday coming up, but we'd love to make it a weekly or bi-weekly tradition. So we're excited to have you all in the Pentagon for those.
And we will be receiving more readouts of the Secretary of War's meetings, with the president yesterday, much like the State Department and the White House that provide readouts and scheduling and things like that. Will we be receiving more of those?
Absolutely. In the interest, as I said in my opening, in the interest of transparency, we want to make sure that you all are informed. That's a commitment we take seriously. Obviously, we're slightly different than other agencies in that we have national security and operational concerns, but we will tell you as much as we can because we want the American public to know all the incredible things that our warfighters are doing every single day and all the amazing initiatives the Secretary is pursuing here at the Department of War. Yes.
Thanks, Kingsley. Jordan Conrad from Gateway Pundit. I wanted to ask you, in May, the Secretary announced a new investigation into the Afghanistan withdrawal under Biden. In light of the recent events with one of these refugees killing a service member, is there any updates on that investigation?
I don't have any updates for you at this time, but I can tell you that the review that we're doing into the horrendous Afghanistan withdrawal under the previous administration, the Biden administration, is expected to be complete by summer of 2026. And we are committed to ensuring that this review, unlike others, is much more unredacted, that the American people are able to consume the report for themselves and see what truly happened on that fateful day and that fateful withdrawal. And we owe it to our service members to accomplish that. The review is being led by our chief Pentagon spokesman and senior advisor to the Secretary, Sean Parnell, an Afghan veteran himself. And he takes very seriously the responsibility to getting answers to the American people. So we are committed to that 100%. And in summer 2026, the public will be able to have that report. Yes.
Thank you, Kinsley. A question for you in regards to the Afghan withdrawal. When we brought all these migrants onto military bases, or these refugees onto military bases, we saw a surge in assault immediately after, sexual assault and physical assaults. And then all of a sudden, under the previous administration, we no longer learned of anything that was happening anymore on these military bases. Does this Pentagon plan on giving us some type of criminal data on that to see what actually happened when they were brought onto these military bases? And do we have any status updates on like FBI investigations and such?
So for FBI investigations, anything that would be a criminal law enforcement matter would obviously be something to direct to the Department of Justice, as we cannot speak to that from our perch here at the Department of War. But what I can tell you is that we are aware of a lot of that activity that went on. It's despicable. One is too many, right? And we understand that the Biden administration, unfortunately, put our troops and our country last in many cases. The secretary is committed to correcting that. And I think that's what you're going to see going forward. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about Somalia, which isn't talked about very much, but we have done 101 strikes in Somalia in 2025. And there was a raid carried out in some caves, and I'm quoting former Congressman Matt Gaetz, who I didn't realize would be here today, but he asked why we're sending, quote, hundreds of U.S. troops into fortified caves in Somalia to kill like 5 guys. And I think it's a good question as to why the U.S. military is still in Somalia.
Thank you for the question. So I can assure you, right, this is an America First Department of War and president. So we aren't conducting forever wars in Somalia. We're not seeking regime change or, we're not nation building. But I will say that this department's narrowly scoped, intelligence-driven counterterrorism operations in places like Somalia, alongside our partners, allow us to protect the American homeland from terrorist threats and to protect our interests. So we will continue to make sure that the American people are kept safe. That's our utmost priority. But, we're not isolationists. We're also not neocons. We're realists. We understand that threats face the American people every single day. We take that incredibly seriously. But at the same time, we're always going to make sure that we're putting America first.
And if I could follow up on Laura's question, actually, but from a different angle, she mentioned that are we reassessing our relationship with Qatar because of funding of the Muslim Brotherhood? It's been widely documented in mainstream Israeli papers that the Israeli government funded Hamas, which we also designate as a terrorist organization. Are we therefore reassessing our relationship with Israel because of this?
That would be a better question for the State Department, as they're the ones who have those foreign diplomatic channels. Yes, Ryan.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this press briefing. I wanted to get back to the Southcom strikes real quick, just broadly speaking, not specific strike. Broadly speaking, are we doing any kinds of post-strike assessments to determine that the intelligence that informed those strikes was accurate? Are we recovering any drugs on board those vessels? You mentioned each vessel struck is equivalent of 25,000 overdose deaths. So are we mostly picking up fentanyl or cocaine or what have you? What's going on with these boats? Like, what's on these boats?
Yeah, they say foreign boats.
So I can
Trump them say they drug boats. What y'all think?
That our intelligence absolutely confirms who these people are. And I can't get into right from this podium how we know that. I don't want to communicate to the enemy the ways in which we're carrying out these strikes. But I can tell you that without a shadow of a doubt, every single one of our military and civilian lawyers knows that these individuals are narco terrorists. We know what they're carrying, where they're coming from, and where they're going. And they are trying to bring drugs to our shores that kill and hurt American citizens. The president takes that very seriously. And when he designated these groups, designated terrorist organizations, that opened up a lot for us here at the Department of War. We can engage in ways that we never could before. So that's all I can say at the moment on that topic, but I can 100% affirm that we know without a shadow of a doubt who these narco terrorists are. Yes, Wade.
So you were speaking earlier about the Washington Post report concerning the Secretary of War and Admiral Bradley. And my question is, does the Department of War plan on pursuing any sort of legal action against the Washington Post? And what consequences will there be for lying to the American people? Because, of course, the implication there was that Pete Hegseth and Admiral Bradley are war criminals. And that was the implication.
The war criminals. Here we go. What she got to say?
So could you speak to that?
Yeah, it is frankly disgusting that the Washington Post would publish something that is so insanely false. And we've seen this from the mainstream media before, right? Anonymous sources that are being quoted that probably have no idea what's going on. And the Washington Post actually went so far as to falsely attribute a quote to the Secretary of War, that he never said.
Okay, so they doubling down that when it comes to him saying basically unalive everybody. He never said that. That's what the Pentagon is saying, and that's what he said. He said he never said that, and that the Washington Post are liars.
That is preposterous that they would write that and pass that off as true journalism. Thankfully, the New York Times stepped in and corrected the record and let the American people know that what they were publishing was absolutely fake news. So the Washington Post, I think readership should think twice before reading that outlet again. It is disgraceful that they call themselves journalists, and we told them as such, right? We get press queries like we do from all of you. We told them this story was completely fake news on Thanksgiving evening with a 3-hour deadline, and they still published it anyway. It's disgraceful, but thankfully the American people see through it. Yes, Jack.
Kingsley, does the Secretary's office or the Pentagon in general, the department, have a message for Senator Wicker, who as a Republican has now backed this inquiry into Secretary Hegseth, again, accusing him of war crimes? It seemed strange to see a Republican going after one of President Trump's own cabinet members.
So I can confirm that the Secretary of War spoke with Senator Wicker, and they had a good conversation where he was able to explain to him a lot of the rationale behind these strikes. And we work closely with all of our partners on the Hill, whether Republican or Democrat, to keep them up to date on what this department is doing in regards to the strike. So we will continue to do that, and we'll continue to brief members of HASC and SASC, and we look forward to continuing those relationships.
Quick follow-up, you mentioned working with partners on the Hill. Another senator on the Hill, the Democrat side, is Senator Mark Kelly. Now, we heard some reporting about a possible investigation into him regarding his status as a retired member of the United States Navy, still on pension, and therefore still under the jurisdiction of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And as such, his membership, you mentioned the Seditious Six, would that be grounds for possibly bringing him back to active service for an investigation, for NJP, or even a full court martial?
So you're correct. The Department of War received serious allegations of misconduct against Senator Mark Kelly. And in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice and other applicable recommendations and regulations, we're doing a thorough review of all of these allegations. And the Secretary of War has tasked the Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan, with doing a thorough review, looking into all of these allegations and providing him an update on December 10th. So we will have more information to come on that. But I would just add that this despicable video that Mark Kelly participated in with the Seditious Six was a politically motivated influence operation that was an attempt to undermine the chain of command, to sow distrust and division in our armed forces. That is absolutely ridiculous, and it puts our warfighters at risk. And again, he doubled down on the Sunday shows. I don't know if you all saw him on the Sunday shows, but he basically insinuated that service members who do not defy President Trump's orders could face potential prosecution in the future when Democrats are back in power. He even called our troops and likened them to those of the Russian military. This is totally disgraceful from an elected official, and the department takes it very seriously, and that is why we have launched this review.
And just to be clear, so if Secretary Phelan were to recommend court martial, that would be on the board?
What was the question? Sorry.
If Secretary Phelan were to recommend court martial, that could be an option on the table?
All options are on the table at this moment in time, and we look forward to getting the Secretary of the Navy's review. And the Secretary of War has been very clear in his statements as well that he takes this extremely seriously, and it is unacceptable. That's all the time I have today. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you coming out.
All right, so we hear from the press secretary of the Pentagon, and she's basically standing on what it was that Hegseth said. Basically, he was not the one that gave the order, and that he did not say, unalive everybody, that there was a total lie. Well, people still don't believe it, and they still have their own opinions. Check out what this senator had to say about this entire situation.
This morning in the Senate Armed Services Committee, did you learn anything about the strike? Are we any closer to determining if the operation was legal?
this operation was illegal. We know
Oh,
more
he said it was
than
illegal. He
them,
don't care what they
and so
say.
do the American people. To say that there were murders or war crimes or both and criminal culpability. And the only question is who's going to be held accountable. Ultimately, Hegseth trying to shift the blame and make Admiral Bradley the fall guy.
Said that Hegseth is shifting the blame. A lot of y'all said that as well. I said it too. Making the other guy the foul guy. Guys, this senator, most definitely Senator Richard, whatever, but Blue Mental, whatever his name is, Menthol, basically is saying the same thing, that Hegseth is shifting the blame and making the other guy the foul guy. Wow.
And the only question is who's going to be held accountable. Ultimately, Hegseth trying to shift the blame and make Admiral Bradley the fall guy ought to be reason to
He say Blue Menthol. Let's go.
Or fire him. He should be gone.
But what evidence have you seen specifically that this is illegal? That this was illegal?
Have you seen the video? Have you seen the video?
What we've seen in reporting, if accurate, certainly justifies the conclusion that there were murders or war crimes or both. But the mere strikes on those boats that are evident right now on the video, apparently unarmed individuals without any knowledge about what they're carrying, where they're heading, who's financing them, or who they are, indicate that the laws of war have been violated and people have been killed. The administration has not denied that 2 individuals out of the fight, disabled, cleaning the boat, were killed. The only question the administration leaves is who's responsible and who's going to be held accountable.
Do you have confidence in the Republican-led
lawmakers who released the video, that they had a sense that something like this was coming, that there was a whistleblower involved, and that's why they put out their video?
I think we're going to see a lot of whistleblowers. From my information coming from military professionals right now, they are not only dismayed, they are distraught, many of them, that Admiral Bradley or other career officers are going to be made fall guys here. The shifting of blame, the passing of the buck is exactly what angers our military professionals, because they stand up every day and take responsibility.
Senator, do you have confidence in the Republican-led Armed Services Committee? It's obviously Senator Wicker that's leading on this.
There's simply no clear indication that an adequate investigation has begun as yet, and it needs to begin right now with a demand that evidence be preserved. The shredders may be going, evidence may be destroyed. We need to demand that it be preserved. And there's no indication that we're going to see an effective, prompt, penetrating investigation.
Senator
Brown
told me that there was going to be a committee meeting later this week where you would actually be in the room with intelligence officials that would have had direct knowledge of that operation. What does that look like? What are your questions for them? And I just want to clarify, when you say reports, are you referring to the reports out there, the Washington Post article, or are these direct intelligence reports that you've seen yourself?
I'm not going to talk about what I have seen, but my clear impression is that 2 individuals out of the fight were clinging to a boat, that individuals who may well have been coerced to be on other boats were completely uninvolved in any acts of war, and that the entire operation involves illegal, possibly murders, war crimes. But what we know for sure right now is there needs to be an investigation. There's been no sign that an investigation has been started or underway in any kind of penetrating or thorough way. And it has to begin with a demand that the evidence be preserved, as would any criminal investigation. What we're seeing here is, in effect, murder or war crimes in real time, in plain sight, and Republicans still have lacked the backbone to stand up to President Trump. And Hegseth has been responsible in saying and ordering that the strikes be totally lethal.
War resolution. Senator Moreno was just here on the red spot a few minutes ago. Senator Moreno had said that he said maybe it would call for a war resolution. Would you feel better if the Congress at least had weighed in and said, okay, we have voted to authorize this type of activity in the Caribbean?
If the administration says there's a war, the war powers resolution is absolutely appropriate, in fact necessary. I've long supported it, and Republican colleagues should, and I believe will as well. But what we're seeing here is an abdication by Congress of its responsibility, the failure to begin investigation when clearly there's law breaking and reckless use of force, the failure to adopt a war resolution when the administration says it is at war. This kind of abdication of responsibility by Congress ought to be completely unacceptable in America.
Senator, can I ask a question on Israel, please? If you support
amazingly.
Israeli strike on the Hezbollah, or if you think that this administration should do more and cut aids to the Lebanese government?
We ought to be supporting the Lebanese armed forces, the LAF, in its effort to disable Hezbollah. It's lacking that capability, leaves the Israelis with no choice but to do it on their own and strike Hezbollah in Lebanon, which ultimately is in the interests of Lebanon itself.
Senator, on the NDAA bill, there's an AI proposal out there that states that calls for one national standard as opposed to patchwork of state laws. What's your opinion on that, and will it be attached to the NDAA?
A preemption provision on AI that eliminates states' ability to protect their own citizens is absolutely a non-starter on the NDAA. First and foremost, we need to pass the National Defense Authorization Act as a matter of our national security. It should happen before we leave. And a preemption provision on AI would be a poison pill. Literally, it would doom the NDAA. We will fight it, we'll prevail as we did before, because states should be able to protect their own citizens. And the states are often laboratories of democracy in trying new ways of protecting their citizens. And clearly there's a need for protections. Senator Hawley and I have sponsored a number of bills, most recently the chatbot bill that would establish national standards on AI. We need to take it piece by piece at the federal level to adopt national standards. But in the meantime, preempting states is absolutely wrong.
Are we going to be seeing any movement on the Russian sanctions package?
I hope and believe we will at the end of this latest round of so-called negotiations, because I think Vladimir Putin has been totally clear that he wants war. He doesn't want peace. He believes he can win this stalling and stonewalling by continuing to take territory, bombing civilians, destroying the energy grid. It's all pretty clear that he wants continued war. And we should be strengthening Ukraine, providing the Tomahawks, the Patriot system interceptors, the F-16, all that Ukraine needs by way of military hardware, but also sanctions. The sanctions bill will stop revenue from flowing to Putin's war machine. He desperately fears it.
Is the House dragging their feet? It has to originate in the House, right?
Well, the question really is who should go first?
Okay.
Because
Ernest Saves Christmas. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Obviously, we have a bill with 85 co-sponsors in the Senate. You know, will the reaction on the sanctions bill? Ask 85 senators. There aren't a lot of bills these days that have 85 senators with such overwhelming bipartisan support. And I think the evidence is the president may be listening, because he's moved in the direction of supporting this kind of measure. And I think when and if these so-called
there you go, Ernest P. World, let's go.
A result, and clearly Putin is stalling, stonewalling, playing Trump and the United States for suckers. I'm hopeful President Trump will be really angry and he'll support the sanctions bill.
Thank you,
Senator.
Thank you.
What about
All right, so he gave us all he could give, guys, as far as his perspective, and he says that, hey, man, he feels like Pete Hegseth most definitely committed war crimes, and with all of this talk, guys, about this whole entire situation. Remember, Senator Kelly asked for him for Hegseth to be questioned, y'all. Well, guess what? They wasted no time in doing it, because as we speak right now, they have Pete Hegseth basically in front of Congress, answering questions. Let's go over here. Let's hear what the guy has to say for himself, about all of this that is going on. That has been going on for a little minute, and I was most definitely looking forward. Let's go.
In a very, very short period of time. So help me understand, Mr. Hegseth, what extraordinary event happened in that 32-day period that made you change the core values you had expressed for the preceding 12 years?
Senator. And as we get into this, man, make sure y'all double tapping that screen, y'all. Get the likes up. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots in the right-hand corner. Hit that thumbs up, guys. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new, as they have Pete Hegseth himself answering questions about all of this that is going on, guys. It is crazy. Pete Hegseth, Senate hearing live. Navy security ordered to investigate Senator Kelly. Let's see what they're talking about.
Again, I very much appreciate you bringing
that at all, Mr. Hegseth. What I see is that there's a 32-day period in which you suddenly have another description about your views of women in the military. And I just want to know what changed in the 32 days that the song you sang is not the song you come in here to.
Shout out to Hawaii, man. You know what I'm saying?
The
And
concerns
New
I
York.
have and the concerns that many have had, especially in ground combat units, is that in pursuit of certain percentages or quotas, standards have been changed. And that makes the combat more difficult
Let me make a
for everybody
suggestion
involved.
about what happened in that 32 days. You got a nomination from President Trump. Now, I've heard of deathbed conversions, but this is the first time I've heard of a nomination conversion. And I hope you understand that many women serving in the military right now might think that if you can convert so rapidly your long-held and aggressively pursued views in just 32 days, that 32 days after you get confirmed, maybe you'll just reverse those views and go back to the old guy who said straight up, women do not belong in combat. Now, Mr. Hegseth, you have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk to you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about, because
You can
it's
think
not
about it
one
right
that,
now.
It's not one, my motivation for this job
I understand
has never
that. I
been
just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should
In
be at the
other
Defense Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the
Oh,
president
I'll
is.
bet you
Thank,
would.
thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for your hard work and your committee's hard work, Mr. Chairman. This has gone well. I'd like to submit this letter, topic conduct at Vets for Freedom for Hegseth. I'd like to submit that for the record, please.
Without objection.
General Hegseth, Mr. Hegseth, thanks for being here today and with your family. I know this is tough. That's what it's all about, though. You're a tough guy. Been here for a while. Never seen this many people that here for a support of a nominee. That's impressive. I met with a lot of them yesterday, and they are very passionate. So thank you for willing to take this on, and congratulations on your nomination.
Oh man, they done sold me some hogwash.
I'm worried about recruiting. I mean, we can look at everything out there and talk about all these things.
They titled it
narratives, but at the end of the day, I came from a team sport.
Oh my goodness!
Where the people
All right, we'll watch it until Trump
That's what's gonna
gives
happen
his
here.
speech here in a
You're not gonna
second.
win the game. Now you're gonna set the precedent. You're gonna get the blame or the credit, but there's gonna people that's gonna be under you that's gonna set the precedent for the future of our country. Now, the war games that we play on our computers with our adversaries right now, for us, it don't look good because our military, we're in trouble. Our whole country's in trouble. Thank God President Trump got elected November the 5th. We couldn't kept down this same path. We could not, that could not happen. I met with a couple of generals this summer. Coach, we're spending more money on transgender restrooms than we are coverings for $100 million airplanes. That's not acceptable. We can't do that. That's not what this is about. Met with a couple of Navy SEALs not too long ago. They just got back from crawling around in the mud and the muck, overseas, unknown places. Couldn't tell you where they've been.
Yeah, they sold me a dream,
Obviously
guys.
protecting us and our allies.
We're gonna get back to it
And
in
the
a
first
second.
week they're back. What they do, they had to go through a week of DEI training. Both are now out. They give it up. It was embarrassing to them of what they had to do. We've lost all sight of what we're doing in our military. Lost all sight. It starts with leadership, and it starts with recruiting. Why would a young man used to, when I was growing up, if you couldn't afford to go to college, you had the opportunity to go to the military where you could learn a trade. You could learn, you could make a living for your family, and eventually possibly get an education. That was a good alternative. We've forgotten that. We've forgotten it. We can't give up on our young people. Young people are our number one commodity in this country, and they're the ones that's going to live and die for the freedom of this country in the future. So again, thank you for taking this on. Recruiting. Our service academies are meant to serve as our primary commissioning source of officers. It now appears that they are a breeding ground for leftist activists and champions of DEI and critical theory. Now, not all, but some, and some is way too much. How are we going to eliminate this, Mr. X? How are we going to get this back on track to where we grow our leaders? I had a young man that forever he wanted to go to West Point. I got him a nomination, I got him accepted, and he turned it down. He says, Coach, I'm not getting involved with that mess. How are we going to overcome this?
Senator, thank you for the question. And I think it comes down to leadership, clear leadership from President Trump through me. Should I be nominated?
Matter of fact, yeah, let's go. Let's put this on pause because they sold me a dream. That was most definitely Pete Hegseth, but it seems this is something else than what I thought it was. It's not actually what I was looking for. So we'll move here to Hakeem Jeffries, guys. Basically speaking on his take on the boat strikes until Trump goes live with his press conference. This is most definitely Hakeem Jeffries speaking his mind about how he feels about the boat strikes, guys, and who ordered it. You know, let's check this out, guys. Let's go here. Hold up. All right, let's go here. Yeah, they sold me some clickbait, but this ain't clickbait. Let's go right here.
New York, Leader Jeffries, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, what's your response to what we heard there from President Trump and Defense Secretary Hegseth about that boat strike?
Well, there's a lot of explaining that the White House needs to do. Listen, at the end of the day, the buck stops with the president and the so-called Secretary of Defense. And it's not clear to me that the so-called Secretary of Defense is being truthful in this instance. And so that's why there's going to be a complete and thorough bipartisan congressional investigation in both the House and the Senate so we can uncover the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what the American people deserve.
Why do you call him so-called Defense Secretary?
This is the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in American history.
Wow.
I called for him to be terminated several months ago in the aftermath of the Signalgate scandal. And there's still some additional information, and I think will be revealed to the American people as to why that was so problematic.
Yeah, we're covering that as well. Pamela, go ahead.
He has said that everything he has done as the Secretary of War has been lawful. But given what you just said, do you think that he has committed impeachable offenses?
Well, there's reason to believe that war crimes may have been committed, and that's why we need a complete and thorough investigation.
They throwing that war crimes word around
I'm
again.
hopeful that my Republican colleagues in both the House and the Senate will finally decide to act like a separate and co-equal branch of government and a check and balance on this out of control executive branch in this instance, where there's reasons to be horrified by what took place, a potential extrajudicial killing off the coast of Venezuela.
On another issue that just has emerged within the last several minutes, Leader Jeffries, President Trump has announced a pardon of the Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar and his wife, who were charged with bribery. What's your response?
Well, Congressman Cuellar is a beloved member of the House of Representatives, loved in his community, particularly in Laredo. I've had the opportunity to spend time with him down in Laredo in South Texas. I look forward to that moving forward. Listen, the reality is this indictment was very thin to begin with, in my view. The charges were eventually going to be dismissed, if not at the trial court level, by the Supreme Court, as they've repeatedly done in instances just like this.
So just to follow up on that, do you agree with the president's pardon here? Do you think that that was a good thing then?
I don't know why the president decided to do this. I think the outcome was exactly the right outcome.
Well, Congressman Cuellar, we should note, is one of a handful of House Democrats who sits in a district President Trump won in 2024. So now he has this presidential pardon. Have you had any conversations with the congressman about him potentially switching to the Republican Party?
I think Congressman Cuellar is a highly valued member of the House Democratic Caucus, and I expect that he'll continue to remain a highly valued member of the House Democratic Caucus.
What about re-election plans? Has he informed you of that?
No, I think the filing deadline in Texas is upcoming in the next few days. Many of the members of the Texas congressional delegation have yet to file for re-election. I expect that we'll see that happen in advance of the Monday deadline.
We'll see what he decides. The U.S. is immediately pausing immigration applications for individuals from some 19 countries, including Afghanistan, and temporarily holding asylum decisions. Do you see any upside at all to these steps by the Trump administration in the wake of that tragic shooting of 2 National Guard members here in Washington, D.C. by an Afghan national who was vetted and was here legally?
Yeah, the administration hasn't fully and completely explained their rationale for taking this decision, but here's what I know. Like, the American people want Donald Trump and Republicans to actually keep their promises on the issues that they said they would focus on, which includes dealing with the affordability crisis that exists here in the United States of America. Notwithstanding the fact that Donald Trump apparently believes that the high cost of living in this country is a scam. It is not a scam. These people promised that they were going to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down. They're going up. Housing costs out of control, grocery costs out of control, electricity prices out of control. And now, because Republicans refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, tens of millions of people are about to experience dramatically increased health care costs that will prevent them from being able to go see a doctor when they need one. These are the issues that the American people want to see progress made on. House Democrats are prepared to make that progress, but we need partners on the other side of the aisle.
And we'll get to more on affordability in just a moment. But just to follow up, I mean, one of President Trump's key campaign promises was also on immigration, right? So even if you disagree with the way this immigration crackdown is happening, according to government data, U.S. Border Patrol has released 0 undocumented migrants into the U.S. for 6 consecutive months, and daily average apprehensions at the southwest border are lower now than under Biden. Are you willing to give President Trump any credit for that?
Well, let's take the two issues together, right? First, we believe in a safe, a strong, and a secure border. And that's important, and we'll continue to stand behind that. At the same period of time, we acknowledge, of course, we have a broken immigration system. It needs to be fixed, but it should be fixed in a comprehensive and in a bipartisan way. The American people strongly disagree with the approach that Donald Trump has taken in terms of interior enforcement and immigration, because Republicans promised that they were going to go after violent felons. We support that. They're not going after violent felons. They're breaking up families, law-abiding immigrant families, in some cases actually deporting citizen children of the United States of America. That's completely and totally unacceptable. And the American people know it, which is why in the most recent Gallup poll, Donald Trump's approval rating on immigration was underwater by 25 points.
And it is true that the polls show, in terms of the tactics used, that the majority, they don't like the tactics being used. But in terms of the border, securing the border, can you give President Trump any credit for securing the border? Because as you know, that was a big issue under the Biden administration when you had record border crossings, and those border crossings have gone down dramatically. Can you give him credit for that?
The border is secure. That's a good thing. It's happened on his watch. He wants to claim credit for it. Of course, he'll get credit for that. In terms of making sure that we actually deal with the issues that matter, including on immigration or beyond, there's a lot that is left to be desired.
You know, and another sensitive comment from the president, and I just want to get your reaction, Leader Jeffries. The president ended his cabinet meeting yesterday by referring to Somalis and Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar specifically, and I'm quoting him now, he said they were, quote, garbage. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's an outrageous statement from the president directed at a member of Congress who is well regarded, who's a strong advocate, Representative Ilhan Omar, for the communities that she represents in the great state of Minnesota. But this is consistent with the type of xenophobic behavior that we've seen from this president, from the administration, from my Republican colleagues. Instead of focusing on the issues that matter, because they have no solutions, they have no intention, they have no plans, they have no legislative agenda to actually drive down the high cost of living or fix our broken healthcare system. That's why they're losing races all over the country and underperforming, including what we just saw last night in Tennessee.
On affordability and on healthcare, House Republicans tell CNN they're still working to reach a consensus on those enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies set to expire at the end of this month. As we know, was it a mistake for Democrats, now looking back in hindsight, to agree to end the government shutdown without a resolution to this looming healthcare crisis?
Well, House Democrats are going to continue to fight to address our broken healthcare system and deal with the Republican healthcare crisis. Understand, these people are destroying the healthcare of the American people in real time. They enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. More than 14 million people are about to lose their health insurance as a result of what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill. Hospitals, nursing homes, community-based health centers are closing throughout the country. They're attacking the Centers for Disease Control, the National Institute of Health, making vaccines unavailable. Children are going sick. And now they refuse to deal with the Affordable Care Act tax credit extensions. So we as Democrats, we're going to continue the fight. We have a discharge petition that has the support of all 214 members of the House Democratic Caucus. All we need are 4 Republicans, just 4, there's 219 of them. All we need is 4 to join us, and we can get an up or down vote on passing a 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits to protect and save the health care of working class Americans.
Just to follow up with you, what do you say to the Republicans? Because I know you are criticizing what they've done on Medicaid, but what do you say to Republicans who say that what's going on right now with the healthcare subsidies is a crisis of the Democrats' own making with the Affordable Care Act and even setting this expiration date, and the fact that these premiums would now go up so much past this month if nothing is resolved in Congress? How do you respond to what Republicans say about that?
Listen, we've made clear overall that there are a lot of challenges with the healthcare system, and we're committed to fixing every aspect of our broken healthcare system. But the Affordable Care Act is understandably embraced by the majority of the American people because they know that it's an important part of making sure that health insurance can remain affordable for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans. We're talking about tens of millions of people, including in many red states across the country. In fact, the states that would be most impacted if the Affordable Care Act tax credits expire are Republican-run states. We're talking about West Virginia, Wyoming, Alaska, Mississippi, Tennessee.
All right, Hakeem, you don't went out way off course on something else. He most definitely feels like, there should be a thorough investigation into the boat strikes, guys, which is what we're on right now, as we wait on Trump to give this speech he's about to give or announcement from the White House, guys. Here's more on the boat strikes, guys. It looks like, and that's what tuned me in a while ago. I thought that 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 questioning that we were watching at first was actually live, but come to find out that it wasn't, because they won't be questioning Hegseth until tomorrow, guys. But this is a little bit on that. This is how I found out that it was tomorrow and not today.
Retired Army four-star General Barry McCaffrey, a division commander in the Gulf War and drug czar under President Clinton. Michael Crowley is the New York Times diplomatic correspondent. Thank you all for being here. Vaughn, clearly the administration is trying to get this behind them. What's your sense of how that's going?
It's not going well. And I think that that's where you saw Pete Hegseth sitting with President Trump yesterday in the cabinet room there. And essentially the two men standing in solidarity with one another while shifting the decision to execute that second strike on September 2nd onto Admiral Bradley, who, as you noted, is going
Admiral Bradley. That's the one they shift the blame on.
Services committees, at least the chairs and the ranking members. There is the anticipation, according to Adam Smith, the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, that he will address not only the full committee in a classified briefing setting, but then also potentially testify publicly, along with Pete Hegseth. Of course, there are a lot of questions there, as Pete Hegseth just yesterday suggested that he had gone away for an hour, 2 hours between that first strike, which he watched happen with his own eyes, and then ultimately decision, as he says, took place by Admiral Bradley to move forward with that second strike with, as the Washington Post reported, 2 survivors that were killed in that second strike here. And I want to let you listen to Senator Rand Paul, because it's sort of unlike any moment during the first Trump administration or here 10 months into the second Trump administration. This is the issue, one in which the Trump administration has moved forward with strikes that have not been congressionally authorized in a way that is received not only scrutiny from Democrats, but a great many Republicans on Capitol Hill, increasingly as well. Take a listen to Rand Paul.
Secretary Hegseth said he had no knowledge of this and it did not happen. It was fake news. It didn't happen. And then the next day from the podium with the White House, they're saying it did happen. So either he was lying to us on Sunday or he's incompetent and didn't know.
Boy, Hegseth is in hot water, guys.
People lie to us to our face.
And I think that is where we have not received a detailed understanding of events from Pete Hegseth, in the extent to which the presidents of the United States had executed on the commands to have everybody killed, and whether Admiral Bradley or others on the mission in the chain of command ultimately sought to carry those out as they interpreted the orders from the commander-in-chief and the chief at the Pentagon to be.
So, General, again, we talked at the top about these 3 different changing explanations. First, it was fake news, and then you had from the podium of the White House saying it did happen. And then I want to play some of what Secretary Hegseth said.
Can we have 50 more people double tap their screen, guys? If you have not hit the like button, double tapping the screen of your mobile devices, how you hit that like button, or you can click those 3 dots and hit that thumbs up. It most definitely helps out the channel. And remember, hey, if you want all the latest and breaking news, as soon as it hits the net, man, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys. But most definitely hit that like button. It helps out the channel. You know, double tap your screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up, man. This is everything that I know regarding Pete Hegseth in that second strike that unalived those survivors that some people are calling a war crime. How do you feel about it? Let me know down in the comment section, and remember to subscribe to the channel, man.
Yesterday about what happened, I think, on September 2nd.
I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. I did not personally.
Thank you to everybody that hit that like button.
Because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war.
There is so much, General, to unpack there. The idea this was the fog of war, that he was out of the room when it happened. Does any of that explain to you how this happened, or release Secretary Hegseth from responsibility for what did happen?
Look, there's going to have to be an investigation, clearly by Congress,
Senate Armed Services Committee and the House Armed Services Committee. This Admiral Bradley, there is zero chance of him not being forthcoming and telling the truth when he testifies to Congress. Remarkable officer, combat leader, class of 91 at Naval Academy. His entire adult life, he's been a Navy SEAL, involved in violent actions around the globe protecting America. A master's degree in physics. This guy is brilliant. He's admired. He's going to tell the truth. The problem is, in the short run, there a violent attack on 2 survivors in the water, yes or no. If he got that order, he should have immediately sent back a written response saying, we won't comply, it's illegal. There may be other confusion involved in this whole matter, but Chris, the largest problem is we have 15,000 sailors and Marines and Army Special Ops in the Caribbean, a giant carrier battle group, an attack submarine, F-35 stealth fighters, B-1, B-52 bombers, all spectacularly incapable of affecting the drug situation. In my view, what we're doing is we're trying to force Maduro out and get U.S. access to the oil, 300 million barrels of reserves.
Let me just be clear about what you're saying.
Situation.
As the former drug czar, I want to be clear about what you're saying. Is it that what they claim has practically eliminated any drugs coming into the country, that 90% of the problem has been eliminated from your seat of expertise? That is patently not true?
Right, it's not true. And by the way, it was also the Southcom commander when we had a law enforcement capability to deal with this problem. The incredibly effective DEA, U.S. Coast Guard, our maritime law enforcement agency, who were authorized to fire disabling shots at drug runners. The real center of the drug problem, coca production, is in Colombia, not Venezuela. It tripled in the last 10 years since they stopped aerial eradication programs. So again, the thing doesn't make any sense. I conclude that this carrier battle group he's got out there, you know, he's hanging out in the open now. That carrier battle group can't stay more than, I'd say, 6 months logistically supported from Puerto Rico and Trinidad, Tobago, and other places. He's got to do something. So Congress has been absent. Article 1 of the Constitution, they have responsibility for authorizing use of military force, and they haven't done it.
Now there's the question about Pete Hegseth. And Michael, I want to play part of a speech that the secretary gave back in 2016 at the Liberty Forum.
Well, here go the other one. This video, they are playing it out too.
Consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander in chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
And yet George Will wrote just this morning in the Washington Post, Hegseth seems to be a war criminal without a war. I just wonder what you're hearing about this, what it means for this administration, and frankly, what it means for the reputation of the U.S. military.
Well, Chris, there's a huge amount of concern about the reputation of the United States, not just the military, but in so many ways, the state of our democracy, the way we are treating people in this country. So this adds to a general sense that despite what Pete Hegseth said in 2016, that the United States is acting in a lawless way, or that the United States government is acting in a lawless way, or sort of reinterpreting the law. You know, I've seen other sound bites from Hegseth in the last couple of days where he's striking a different tone and saying, we can't be lawyered to death. You know, we have to be lethal. We have to make sure the enemy knows that when we strike, we're going to get them, and we're not going to be bogged down in handbooks and manuals, you know, picking at every decision we make. And that's a very different tone, suggesting we have to push the legal envelope. And, you know, some of what's happening here, Chris, is I think an attempt by the administration to redefine, you know, I don't want to get too up in the clouds here, but people should go back and read George Orwell. It's the use of language here. So, you know, what is legal? What constitutes the laws of war? This stuff is written down and codified internationally, but it seems like Trump officials are trying to redefine it. And even fundamentally, Chris, this question of whether we are at war with these drug traffickers, you know, there's a longstanding definition and sense of what an armed conflict is, what a war is. And this doesn't look like that. And the Trump administration is using the word war over and over again to justify lethal force in the first place, which is really the foundational question here. Should we be doing these strikes at all? And they are based on the idea that there is a war, that there is a conflict. And that is redefining that word as everyone has understood it for a long time. So to go back to your initial question in conclusion, I think that I know that is worrying people around the world who see the United States redefining these concepts, testing the boundaries of these laws, trying to establish new precedents, maybe to get around these laws. And that is a big reputational risk for the United States over the long term.
And at a time when just yesterday, the president said, to the general's point, that the U.S. is going to start hitting targets inside Venezuela very soon. We will continue this conversation for sure. Vaughn Gilbert, General Barry McCaffrey, and Michael Crowley.
Yeah, say they're going to be hitting spots inside of Venezuela very soon, guys. So we could have another battle on our hands, guys. But most feel like Pete Hegseth most definitely committed war crimes. That's what I keep hearing over and over and over again. And then we hear him say fog of war. And he said that was something that most people don't know nothing about. Let's get a little bit into what he meant by that, as we wait on Trump to get this announcement, guys. Hold on. Let's go here.
U.S. Secretary of Defense, also known, of course, as the Secretary of War, citing the, quote, fog of war Tuesday in defending September's follow-up strike on an alleged drug-carrying boat in the Caribbean. During a cabinet meeting, Hegseth explained that he did not see any survivors in the water, saying the vessel, quote, exploded in fire, smoke. You can't see anything. This is called
war crimes.
War, end quote. Hegseth added that the admiral in charge, quote, made the right call in ordering that second hit, which he did have complete authority to do. Some lawmakers have called for investigations after a Washington Post report claimed that Hegseth issued a verbal order to, quote, kill everybody on the boat. Those reports indicate 2 survivors were seen
in which he said that was a lie.
After the strike.
He never said
this
that.
was the first vessel hit amid the Trump administration's counter-drug campaign in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific, which now includes more than 20 known strikes. As the U.S. built up its military presence in the region, some say it is a tactic to pressure Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to resign. I do want to bring in Max Meislich, a research fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, to talk about exactly what all of this means. Max, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Good morning, Josh.
And I did want to start here by asking you overall about whether or not, based in your expertise, the U.S. is attempting to replace Maduro and maybe force him out of office, and then also what that would mean.
Thanks, Josh. It's really difficult to say, as I'm sure you're aware, and many of your listeners, as we're all searching for answers about this exact question. Considering the administration has been pretty reserved in actually stating what the strategic objectives may be with respect to the military buildup by Venezuela's borders. We know about the strikes on cartel-linked drug vessels, and we obviously understand the threat that the flow of drugs into the United States and to allied partners in Europe means coming from Venezuela. But it's an open question as to whether the administration is going to push for regime change. And I'll note that President Trump has commented that Maduro's days are numbered, but it's really an open question about the extent to which the administration is going to act and push for that end.
And if there was some kind of collapse here, let's say that we see a group that's linked to the cartel, or we see, someone else who does take over here, what are some of the implications of that? Again, we're looking into the future here, as we don't know if Maduro is being pushed out or really anything of that nature.
Exactly. So this question points to a really concerning part about Venezuelan politics and the geopolitical implications of any change in the regime. As bad as Maduro is as a dictator and not the elected leader of Venezuela, what we know is that he stayed in power for all these years because of a broad coalition of parties, not all of whom are actually loyal to Maduro, yet back his power. And so these are nasty characters, organizations, some of which are designated by the United States, guerrilla organizations, heavily armed factions that impose their will in Venezuela.
And Meadow say none of this is normal.
Support by Maduro himself. And so if Maduro were to fall, it's an open question as to whether the democratically elected opposition group would ultimately take power. And if they do, it's still an open question about the extent to which their control will extend to all of these various factions that themselves are benefiting from the lucrative drug trade.
And what would you say that U.S. policymakers, the American public, folks out there need to consider before supporting any kind of regime change there when you're talking about economic, humanitarian, geopolitical costs, uncertainties, all of that?
So this is the most interesting thing with respect to my work, Josh, at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and our Center on Economic and Financial Power, right? Looking at the extent to which economic tools can be utilized to better support U.S. strategic objectives. And so what we have going on in Venezuela is movement of the Fort Carrier Strike Group. But to my eyes, what we are lacking is a similar equivalent in the form of an economic strike force, right? A ready-made deployable force of U.S. government personnel that could ultimately be deployed and dispatched to Venezuela in the event of the democratic opposition actually taking hold. So something like that involving a contingency of State Department officials, Commerce Department officials, Treasury Department officials, going in and ultimately helping with privatizing Venezuela's massive oil sector, dealing with $160 billion in debt obligations that the new government would have to restructure, and building up private sector enterprise outside of the oil sector in terms of mining and agriculture and tourism. All of that is something that would meaningfully add to the administration's ability to say, this is the path that we hope for Venezuela, and we're prepared to support it beyond just whatever military means we have available.
And kind of going in reverse here, I do want to ask you kind of a general question, because we've been showing video of the strikes. We talked about some of these alleged cartel drug boats that have been struck by the U.S. over the past several months. What do those strikes really say about where things stand between the U.S. and Venezuela?
We know that the president is concerned about the flow of drugs coming out of Venezuela, and we know that President Maduro is at the top of the Cartel de los Soles, which is a loosely organized organization coming out of Venezuela with respect to the flow of drugs. Secretary Rubio has called Venezuela a transshipment hub for narcotics. It seems to me that the administration is going to continue with these strikes as
your guess is as good as mine, Steve,
and commitment to going after bad actors coming from Venezuela. But the question really is going to be whether that extends to President Maduro and his military.
I see people down there saying, hey, man, this is all over oil, man. All the rest of that is just hogwash. Do y'all believe they're trying to take Venezuela's oil? I'm just saying. I've seen a couple of people come through the comments and basically say that this whole thing was allegedly over oil. What do y'all think about that? Let me know.
And cronies.
All right, Max, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and to help break it all down. Anything we missed? Anything you want to make sure to add here before I let you go?
Josh, one last point is that in the event that the Democratic opposition doesn't come to power, what we're going to need to see is a rapidly escalated extension of U.S. sanctions on Venezuela. Most people think Venezuela is already a heavily sanctioned country, but what we know, as a matter of fact, that the 1 million barrels of oil coming out per day from Venezuela today.
Well, they just said something. They just said something about the oil. It's crazy that y'all should say that, because he just mentioned how much oil Venezuela is pumping out, guys. See what he said.
Most people think Venezuela is already a heavily sanctioned country, but what we know as a matter of fact, that the 1 million barrels of oil coming out per day from Venezuela today is actually the highest since President Trump has imposed sanctions on the Venezuelan regime. And so what happens next is going to be a question of how we actually extend coercive tools of economic statecraft to deter further malign influence.
All right, Max, thank you again
Wow.
for taking the time to be here with us. We definitely appreciate it.
Very smart people in this comment section, man. Y'all been screaming all, and then all of a sudden he said something about the all. Venezuela pumps out 1 million gallons of oil per day. Oh wow. Yeah, all right. So we got Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, guys, the Democrats, basically just gave a little short press conference as we wait on Trump. Let's see what they had to say. You know, I'm pretty sure they're going to speak on Hexelf and a couple of other things. Let's see exactly what's going on, guys. 1 million barrels, not gallons. Okay, 1 million barrels a day. My bad. You know what I'm saying? Thanks for the correction, man. You know, I'm just up here listening and repeating. You know what I'm saying? So most definitely appreciate that correction. All right, let's go. Let's see what Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer had to say about all this.
In the United States of America, our country is far too expensive. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down. Costs have gone up across the board. Housing costs are too high. Grocery costs are too high. Childcare costs are too high. Electricity bills are through the roof. And because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, tens of millions of Americans are on the brink of experiencing dramatically increased health insurance premiums. So much so that many will be unable to go see a doctor when they need one. And so we stand together, continuing the fight to address the Republican healthcare crisis and fix our broken healthcare system. And what's immediately in front of us right now is the need to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. We just need a handful of Republicans in the House to join us, and we can force an up or down vote on the floor to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits and stand up for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans who are at risk of having their health care ripped away from them. Leader Schumer.
Thank you. And yes, as Hakeem said, we had a great discussion on our Democratic agenda, focusing on the number one issue facing the American people, the high costs of the things they care most about and need the most, especially healthcare. Healthcare costs, we know, are going through the roof. It's just astounding that people would pay $500 or $1,000 more a month for their healthcare. What are they going to do? Come January 1st, millions won't have doctors. Tens of millions will lose their doctors and have to go to a new one who might not be nearby, who might not understand.
Democrats are still talking about healthcare, guys.
It's just incredible. And why is this happening? Republican intransigence. Democrats are united on fighting to lower healthcare costs. Republicans are a mess. They can't come to an agreement on a bill. They can't come to an agreement on a solution. Many of them don't want any solution at all. Well, next week, Republican senators will have an opportunity to show the American people they want to lower their health care costs, or they will spurn the American people's desire to lower those health care costs by not supporting Democratic legislation. They are in a bubble. From Donald Trump on down, Donald Trump says there's no affordability crisis. What kind of world is he living in? He's a billionaire. He doesn't have to worry about paying his medical bills, his heating bills, his food bills. But as president, you'd think he'd have some understanding of how the vast majority of Americans live every week, struggling. How are they going to pay this bill? How are they going to pay that bill? What am I going to cut off? But they're in this bubble. They don't get it. Well, Democrats know our job is to fight for the American people and to lower their costs. Republicans have no unity. So Democrats are fighting to lower health care costs. Republicans are fighting with one another. Questions?
Mr. Lieber, thank you. Actually, this is directly to you, Leader Schumer. Do you plan to introduce a proposal for a clean 3-year extension similar to the discharge petition that the leader put forth ahead of next week's vote? And second,
Well, let me answer the first one in 2 words. Stay tuned. Second question.
He said, stay tuned, guys.
We are united. We are united.
Okay. Second question.
We are not united within the entire Senate caucus.
Okay. Second question. I'm just curious if either of you have seen this new DoD IG report. I know it hasn't been made public yet, but there are some details that have come out suggesting that the secretary may have jeopardized sensitive military information in the Signal group chat. Just want your reaction.
I haven't seen it yet. It's only available to the right now, a classified version to the members of the Intelligence Committee, but I await its release publicly tomorrow.
Yeah, I have not seen the report. Pete Hegseth is the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in American history. The sooner he's gone, the better off the American people.
Oh, they want him up out of there. Hegseth, they said as soon as he's gone, the better we'll be. Wow.
And have you spoken to him to Pryor today? And do you believe that he will stay loyal to the caucus?
I issued a statement on this earlier. My statement speaks for itself. I look forward to talking to Henry when we go on the floor in just about an hour.
If Democrats are united on this healthcare issue, why are you not stating your...
All right, Sweet Meadow, make sure you subscribe to the channel.
Look, the Republican senators have an opportunity to show they're on the side of the American people. And next Tuesday's or next week's vote, we don't know what day yet, next week's vote will show whose side they're on. Are they on the side of the billionaires? Are they on the side of Donald Trump, who says he doesn't even know what affordability means and is it a crisis, or on the other side of the American people? We'll see.
When are you going to tell us what you are voting on?
Stay tuned.
Yeah, this is not that complicated. What we've seen, right, House Democrats and Senate Democrats in complete alignment in defending the health care of the American people from the very beginning. Every single House Democrat, every single Senate Democrat opposing the one big ugly bill. Why? Because it enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. It literally ripped insurance away from about 14 million people all across the country, including in rural America. At the same time, Democrats standing united against the one big ugly bill. Why? Because it set in motion hospitals, nursing homes, community-based health centers closing all across the country. We oppose the cuts to the Centers for Disease Control. Together, we oppose the cuts to the National Institute of Health. We oppose their effort to take away vaccines from the children of America. And now you see people getting sick all across this country, including in South Carolina, where kids actually couldn't even go to school, apparently, for weeks because of the Republican healthcare crisis. And we're standing together in fighting to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Thank you. Leadership said that Republicans will have a chance to support some people's legislation next week. But Speaker Johnson reportedly told President Trump to pull back his plan that he reportedly plans to put forward. So even if something happens in the Senate next week, how are you thinking about what's happening over on your side of the Capitol in terms of, Speaker Johnson not supporting any type of conversation around extending these tax credits at this point?
Brian say, dude, straight up
Mike
sprinkling
Johnson
in lies.
consistently
Let's
made
go.
his position clear. He's got zero interest in protecting the health care of the American people. And these folks over on the House side, these Republicans, they've tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act more than 70 different times. We know who they are. They've shown the American people this consistently. And the American people know that Democrats in the House and Senate are actually fighting to make their life better, fighting to lower the high cost of living, fighting to address the Republican healthcare crisis and fix the broken healthcare system. In terms of movement in the House, all 214 House Democrats have signed the discharge petition that will force an up or down vote. All we need are 4 House Republicans to join us. There are 219 of them. All we need are 4. Dozens have said that they were prepared to work with Democrats to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. in the aftermath of the Trump Republican shutdown ending. The Trump Republican shutdown's over. And now we've got a vehicle here in the House. All we need are 4 Republicans to join us, and we can prevent tens of millions of people from having dramatically increased health insurance costs. In some cases, $1,000 or $2,000 per month in terms of the increases that everyday Americans will be forced to endure. That's unacceptable, particularly in the wealthiest country in the history of the world.
I would say this, the petition, the discharge petition in the House and the vote next week in the Senate are going to be one of the most important moments in this whole Congress.
Crisis say
Since 1993,
Democrats are
there's been a fight
lying.
between the two parties.
The
Since
Democrats
Hillary
shut
Clinton
down the
proposed
government.
healthcare proposal.
Okay, y'all. I hear y'all
And
out
that
there,
is,
man.
who is going to
Continue
lower your
double tap
costs?
that screen. Get the
Who's
lights
going to
up.
make healthcare more affordable? Who is on your side when all the special interests aren't? That's what's happened throughout. And this is an important moment. Will Republican senators join us to lower costs? Will a handful of House members join the discharge petition? It's in their hands. It's in their hands, and the American people know it. Thank you.
If Democrats are united behind the plan, does that mean that negotiations with Senate Republicans on a bipartisan proposal are over?
Look, we're willing to negotiate with anyone who will really lower healthcare costs. So far, they're so flummoxed, they're not even able to negotiate among themselves. That would be the first step, wouldn't it?
Last question.
Is December the end of this fight, or could these credits be extended in January? I understand it's probably complicated, but is it possible in December?
Listen, we're in this fight until we win this fight on behalf of the American people. That means extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and the clock is ticking. We need to do this prior to December 31st. There's no reason not to. These Republicans raced in the middle of this year to enact massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. They raced back to Congress here in the House of Representatives on July 3rd in order to pass their one big ugly bill and to make those massive tax breaks for their donors permanent. And yet they've shown zero urgency when it comes to protecting the health care of the American people. And we're going to continue to fight this battle until we're successful. And hopefully, just a handful of Republicans in the House and in the Senate will join us so we can get this done before the end of the year.
You're going to hear about the high costs that Americans have to pay for so many important things, especially health care, over and over and over again throughout this next month and all of next year. It's the number one issue facing the American people. It's the number one thing they want their elected officials to help them with. It's the number one thing that Republicans are stonewalling.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
George.
Lord Jesus. Okay, so we heard from Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, man, and they're basically still talking about the affordable health care situation, as well as calling Hegseth, basically a criminal. And basically, Hakeem Jeffries says that he wants the faster Hegseth gets out of there, the better. I don't know how y'all feel about that. I seen a lot of y'all had something, basically a feeling about this entire situation of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. So I hear y'all. Unfortunately, Trump is taking all day. Lord have mercy. Trump, it's been like 3 hours. He still hasn't said not one word yet. They haven't broadcast anything he had to say as of yet, guys. We're still waiting to see what is going on with this whole thing with Trump and this announcement, guys. I've been in here, it's been up the whole time I've been in here, which I've been in here for about 3 hours giving y'all this content about Hegseth, and we still have yet to hear from the president of the United States. We didn't hear from everybody else but him. Yesterday he was extra tired. He almost fell asleep during his cabinet meeting that he was giving yesterday. Let's see. They are saying that Hegseth if he allegedly was the one that gave the order to the troops in order for them to basically do that second strike, that he endangered American troops, guys. They just, hey, it's a bad day. It's a bad couple of days for Hegseth, because they are on his top, guys. Check this out.
On the Pentagon's watchdog review
As we wait on Trump, y'all, I'm just
other top national security officials' use of the app Signal to discuss attack plans leaked in March. I want to get straight to Zach Cohen, who has the story. Zach, what are we learning?
Yeah, Dana, this report is still classified. It has not been publicly released yet, but sources telling me and our colleague Jake Tapper that the Inspector General for the Pentagon did conclude that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, risked compromising sensitive military information, which could have endangered American troops and risked mission objectives when he used Signal to share that information about an ongoing military operation targeting the Houthi rebels in Yemen. That was back in March. You may remember that these messages were revealed after Atlantic reporter Jeffrey Goldberg was accidentally added to this Signal group chat. And some of these messages are so specific, one of them even saying from Hegseth, quote, "This is the exact time the bombs will drop." So the Inspector General has been investigating Hegseth's use of Signal for several months now, since April. And we're now finding that he came to the same conclusion that many of the critics, current and former U.S. officials did at the time, that Hegseth should not have been using Signal to communicate this sensitive information to other Trump officials, and that he could, the potential consequences of that could have been dire. The IG also concluded, too, that there was no documentation, as far as they could find, that Hegseth made a choice to declassify this information before sending it to the Signal group chat. Now, that's important because we know that the information itself was from a document that was marked classified at the time, and the Inspector General was looking at, among other things, whether or not Hegseth did appropriately declassify it before disseminating it. And one other interesting note, too, Dana, is that Hegseth apparently did not sit for an interview with the Inspector General, resisted doing so, instead provided his responses to their questions in writing. So this is the most fulsome picture that we're getting of this report that's coming from an independent watchdog, one that has been really meticulous in reviewing the facts, acquiring documentation related to Hegseth's use of Signal, and is now offering its assessment that really aligns with what we've been talking about for months now.
Wow. I mean, this is a big deal. Zach, thank you so much. And to Jake as well for breaking this news. I really appreciate it. And I just want to underscore that last thing that Zach said, Kristen Holmes, which is that this is not a bipartisan congressional report, which would also be important, but this is a report from an independent watchdog, the Inspector General, that is supposed to be in every major agency. This one is in his agency, an important one, the Pentagon. And this is what they have concluded, that the Defense Secretary risked compromising sensitive military information, which could have endangered American troops and mission objectives when he used Signal in March of this year.
Yeah, and that's actually what we'd heard, not just from critics, from people who are out there on the front lines and their families, that the biggest concern about this was that they were putting their lives in danger by communicating. And the idea that the Secretary of Defense wouldn't understand that communicating in this way could actually harm our troops on the ground. Now, I will say, we continue to have this narrative, and we've had it 6 times maybe since Hegseth was sworn in. He was nearly fired, but he kept his job. And I think this is going to, again, lead to this whole narrative as to whether or not Hegseth stays as the head Secretary of Defense. But we always have to remind, our viewers how much the Trump administration, how much the Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, how much President Trump and his top advisors all put in to getting Hegseth confirmed. A lot of political capital, a lot of personal capital. And so they really, they're going to come together at some point and make a decision, but that's always going to be on the back of all of their minds.
And we just had up on the screen, but I want to just put it back up if we can, as you come in, Jeff, the actual chat, or at least part of the chat that this Inspector General report is referring to. And you see the part that is highlighted where he's specifically talking about the specifics on the strike that was pending,
Right. I mean, this is when the first bombs will drop. It doesn't get any clearer than that. I mean, that requires no explanation, no amount of spin is able to sort of explain that. But interesting, the Inspector General's report, the Inspector General of the Pentagon was fired. He was one of the many Inspector Generals who were fired. So this was conducted by the Inspector General's office, I believe. I do not believe that there's been a new one appointed. We'll have to check on that. But so that's extraordinary in of itself. But to your point, Kristen, he expended so much capital. It was a tie vote that J.D. Vance had to break to confirm the defense secretary. So many people close to the White House who want the White House to do well are saying that they believe that Pete Hegseth will stay on until there is a few cabinet members who leave. So he will not be the only one to leave. There may be a reshuffling, which happens, as we reported, and we've seen in every administration, some cabinet members are replaced as the administration moves along. We'll see if that happens here, but he has a lot of pressure coming on him from his comments yesterday about Venezuela on top of this.
I was going to say, this is not happening in a vacuum.
Right.
I'm also glad you pointed out the Inspector General's office, because we were talking as we were getting this news.
It's not just one person. I mean, they're actually quite large offices.
Yeah, exactly. About the actual Inspector General at the Pentagon and other places and other agencies, they have been let go, but the office does still exist. The fact that this is not happening in a vacuum, that it is happening as Mr. Hegseth is very much under pressure and being questioned by his fellow Republicans, not about this anymore, but on the strikes against these votes coming out of Venezuela.
Right. And Kristen's point in saying that the administration expended so much capital is a reminder that Pete Hegseth came into his job with not a lot of goodwill among Republicans in Congress because that confirmation vote was so narrow. And now on the separate issue, on the strikes and what happened, you're hearing really intense scrutiny from bipartisan leaders of these key congressional committees. I wanted to read this quote from Senator Roger Wicker, who's the chairman of the Armed Services Committee. And on the Venezuela issue, he says these are serious charges, and that's the reason we're going to have special oversight. I mean, and Roger Wicker, I mean, he's not like a Mitt Romney, Tom Tillis type. Like, he is conservative. He doesn't like to kind of buck the party if he doesn't have to. So the fact that he's sounding this really stern warning about what the committees will do shows that Pete Hegseth is under serious scrutiny by Republicans in Congress.
Yeah, and the thing that also strikes me from Zach's reporting is the point that he made that Hegseth didn't sit for an interview, that he only submitted questions in writing. Here on these boat strikes, it's going to be a big question. Right. What happened exactly when? And already we see that his own version of this has shifted a couple of times, and it's clarified maybe or changed, depends on.
This is crazy
about it. But if this congressional
what's up, Ghetto?
Will have to answer a lot of questions, and he probably, I would assume, will not be given the benefit of just submitting things in writing where he gets to think about it a lot in advance, but will have to have his story straight. And it seems like that was at least somewhat of a concern for him in this other issue.
Yeah, that's really a really good point.
I guess they say when it rains, it pours, guys. It's saying that hold up. Okay, we got Trump. He finally done went live. All right, let's get Trump in here, guys. Hold up. Here he is.
We're officially terminating Joe Biden's ridiculously burdensome, horrible, actually, CAFE standards that impose expensive restrictions and all sorts of problems, gave all sorts of problems to automakers. And we're not only talking about here, we're talking about outside of our country, because nobody could do it. Nobody wanted to do it, and it was ridiculous.
Lord, have mercy.
Very expensive. It put tremendous upward pressure on car prices, combined with the insane electric vehicle mandate. Biden's burdensome regulations helped cause the price of cars to soar more than 25%. And in one case, they went up 18% in 1 year. Today, we're taking one more step to kill the Green New scam. It's part
What's
of
up,
the
Angela?
Scam, probably, well, other than Russia, and a few others I could name. The greatest scam in American history, the Green New scam. And it's a quest to end the gasoline-powered car. This is what they wanted to do, even though we have more gasoline than any other country by far. And people want the gasoline car. They want everything. They want electric. They want to have lots of alternatives, but they do want the gasoline car. Right now, it's leading away.
This is live, guys.
The car business is a very interesting business, but we want to keep it that way. I want to thank Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Deputy Transportation Secretary Stephen Bradbury, as well as CEO of Ford, Jim Farley. Jim, where is Jim? Let's see. Hi, Jim. Congratulations. You're doing a great job. CEO of Stellantis, Antonio Filosa. Thank you very much, Antonio. Chairman of the National Automobile Dealers Association, Tom Castrida.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
very
Yes,
much,
sir.
Tom. Great to have you. And Manager of General Motors Orient Plant, John Urbanek.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Great to have you guys here. And you're going to say a few words in a minute about how ridiculous this was, but we've just freed you up. So you're going to have a good day and have a good number of years. Thanks as well to Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Ted Cruz, Kevin Kramer, Marcia Blackburn, Eric Schmidt, and Bernie Marino, as well as Representative Sam Graves, Vern Buchanan, Mike Kelly, Roger Williams, Lisa McClain, and Troy Balderson. All great people. These are great people. And I know there's a lot of support long beyond the people that are here. We had tremendous support on this. From day one, I've been taking action to make buying a car more affordable. I signed an executive order to end the unfair, expensive electric vehicle mandate, as you know, where you had to have an electric car within a very short period of time, even though there was no way of charging them and lots of other things. It would have cost $5 trillion to build the charging plants. And as you know, in certain parts of the Midwest, they spent to build 9 chargers, they spent $8 billion. So that wasn't working out too well. That was done before me, by the way. I wouldn't have let it go forward. We're canceling the EPA's absurd tailpipe emission standards, one of the most important things that I've never had a group of people come to me more powerfully and really just devastated that they had to do it. It was killing them than the automobile manufacturers, the tailpipe emission standards. And I can tell you, your people at Ford were coming to me all the time and they were saying, like, please, it doesn't do anything and it's killing us. And it's driving the cost through the roof. And we reviewed Biden's emissions.
So he's rolling back a lot of Biden's policies.
Communists could not regulate the automobile industry and ruin the entire nation of automobiles. And they were doing that too. But we have that now under control also with your governor, who's got much more than he can control. Now, under the new rules being issued today by Secretary Duffy, the Department of Transportation will rescind the Biden fuel economy prices. And I hate to say that because they were really not economy. They were really, they were anti-economy. They were horrible what they were doing to the costs and actually making the car much worse. But these policies forced automakers to build cars using expensive technologies that drove up costs, drove up prices, and made the car much worse. The action is expected to save the typical consumer at least $1,000 off the price of a new car, and we think substantially more than that. Under the Trump administration, $70 billion are now being invested in the American auto industry. Ford has announced it will invest $5 billion across its Kentucky and Michigan plants. Is that a correct statement?
That's right.
That's a lot, $5 billion. You could do more. Creating at least 4,000 new jobs. Stellantis announced it will invest $13 billion to expand its U.S.-based manufacturing by more than 50% and open new manufacturing facilities across the country. And I think a big part of that is also the tariffs. Because of tariffs, they're coming in. Not only the automobile industry, AI, we're leading China in AI, we're leading everybody in AI, we're leading everybody in everything. We have the hottest country right now. I will tell you, a lot of political people behind me, great political people, very successful political people. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world. 1 year ago, we had a dead country, and now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And it started from November 5th, but it also started when we did the tariffs, and we've had tremendous support on the tariffs. It's bringing in trillions of dollars of wealth. It's bringing in national security. And I've stopped 8 wars, and of the 8 wars, 5 of them have been because of tariffs and trade. So they're very important. And General Motors plans to invest $4 billion as it brings its manufacturing back to the United States from Mexico. after falling by 5% under Biden. U.S. auto production has surged by 10% so far this year. You know, I won the auto workers vote, but now even the head of the auto workers said Trump is the greatest president we've ever seen. And he happens to be right about that. But we're protecting our auto workers, and we're making it easier for every family to afford high quality cars. In other words, we're bringing automobiles back and the manufacturing of automobiles back into this country. We lost 52% over the years, 52% of our automobile manufacturing. You see it, closed factories all over the place. Now they're all opening up. They're being, in most cases, they're being knocked down, and new ones are being built in their place. And a big beneficiary is the state of Michigan, but South Carolina, even states that didn't really do too much with the automobiles, they're opening up plants. It's been amazing. So between automobile plants, AI plants, and plants of every other nation, really every other type, including chips, we're going to have a big percentage of the chip market very soon. Not because of the CHIPS Act, which was horrible and ridiculous, where we just gave these companies billions and billions of dollars. They just kept the money. But because of what we did with tariffs, they have to build here. Otherwise, they're going to have to pay tariffs. They won't be able to do business in the United States. And we're going to have a big percentage of the chip industry. As of about a year ago, 2 years ago, we had none. And now we're going to have a very big percentage when it all finishes out. So I'd like to ask Secretary Duffy to speak, and then Mr. Farley, and then Filosa, and Urbanik, and Castrita. And also we're going to ask some of our political leaders to speak, because let me tell you, they went out of their way. This was not easy. And people were brainwashed. This is a green new scam. And people were paying too much for a car that didn't work as well. And now they're going to have a great car that's going to be environmentally friendly, but it's going to cost you a lot less, and it's going to work great. All of the nonsense is being taken out of the cars. So, Secretary Duffy, could you say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. President. So yesterday at the cabinet meeting, the president was talking about affordability, and the way that Democrats talk about affordability is a lie. Today is a perfect example of that. So these CAFE standards used what was contrary to the law. The Congress set a rule that says you have to look at combustion engines. Biden and Buttigieg actually did an analysis using
Edge,
I'm sorry. Buttigieg used EVs and hybrids to come up with a 62 mile an hour per gallon standard, which I think the car companies will tell you is completely unattainable. So they spent a lot of money on technology trying to meet the unattainable standard, driving up the cost of a car, number one. And then number two, if they couldn't meet the unattainable standard, they had to trade for carbon, costing billions of dollars, and again, driving up the price of the car. So, Mr. President, what Democrats were doing, we're not making cars more affordable. They're making them less affordable. The consequence of that is going to be that more Americans can afford to buy a new car, which means they're going to be safer on the roads because of all the great new technology we have that save lives. So we'll have less death on American roads. These rules are going to allow the automakers to make vehicles that Americans want to purchase, not vehicles that Joe Biden and Buttigieg wants them to build, which is important. But also, this is important for American jobs. The more cars we sell, the more jobs we have in this country. And so this is jobs, this is freedom, and this is common sense, Mr. President. So thank you for your leadership. And I appreciate what the Senate did with the big, beautiful bill and what we've done here today. So thank you, Mr.
Very
President.
much. Big, beautiful bill is it's something. It's amazing. Wait till people see the benefits and the lower taxes that they're going to have, lower regulations. So, how about Ford?
Mr. President and Secretary, all the important lawmakers here, competitors, today is a victory of common sense and affordability. We're very proud of Ford to be the number one auto producer in our country. 80% of the vehicles we sell here, we make in our country.
Right.
And we never left, unlike many of our competitors. We're the number one exporter, and we have the most auto factory workers. And this CAFE standard that is aligned with customer demand is the right move for a lot of reasons. We were number 2 last year in EV sales. We were number 3 in hybrid, and we're the leading brand for combustion. We believe that people should be able to make a choice, as you said, Mr. President, and we will invest more in affordable vehicles. This allows us to invest in affordable vehicles made in the US, which we will take the lead on and will allow us to make vehicles more affordable. So thank you for making this step for all of you.
Thank you very much. One of the other things we're doing, it's separate from this meeting, but I think everybody here would agree with it. If you go to Japan, where I just left, and if you go to South Korea and Malaysia and other countries, they have a very small car, sort of like the Beetle used to be with the Volkswagen. They're very small, they're really cute. And I said, how would that do in this country? And everyone seems to think good, but you're not allowed to build them. And I've authorized the secretary to immediately approve the production of those cars. So you'll be able to buy they really are, they're actually, some of them are really beautiful, actually. If you take a look, Honda, some of the Japanese companies do a beautiful job, but we're not allowed to make them in this country. And I think you're going to do very well with those cars. So we're going to approve those cars. Would you like to say something about that?
Well, no, just that he never stops working. So even when he's on Asian time, he's calling me at midnight in the States. But he gave me the directive to clear the regulations on this, which we have. And so if Toyota or any other company wants to make smaller, more affordable cars, fuel efficient, we have cleared the deck so they can make them in America and sell them in America.
They're really nice and less expensive. And it really gives people a chance to have a car, have a brand new car as opposed to a car that maybe isn't so great. And so you car companies start thinking about that. I think it's going to be a tremendous market.
We're finna get a brand new kind of car, guys.
Mr. President, it's a great day for us at Stellantis today, because it's the day where we see CAFE regulation reconcile with real customers' demand. That's why at Stellantis we decided to invest to Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler $13 billion in the next 4 years, increasing production by 50%, delivering to the market 5 new vehicles, and creating 5,000 additional jobs. That's because we believe in what you, Secretary Duffy, and all your team is doing in this country. We believe in growth, and we are ready to invest even more. So thank you very much. Thank you very much also for this great news of the K-Cars, which we are very interested in, and we are very looking forward to work with Secretary Duffy, your team, in the future for the next steps. Thank you very much.
We'll get ready for those cars because we've already cleared the way. You can start right away.
We will. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please.
Mr. President, thank you so much for having me. We support your leadership for this issue that is so important to the auto industry. I'm here representing the hard-working men and women of Orion Assembly in Michigan. The facility, our manufacturing facility there, is currently going through a retool so that we can build additional U.S. manufactured pickup trucks and full-size sport utilities for our customers, and we're so excited about that. And thank you for your support. Secretary Duffy, thank you as well.
And this is largely coming in because of the tariff situation. We're taking in trillions of dollars, actually, trillions, and we have so many other advantages, but these great companies are coming back to the United States. They left the United States. If somebody was sitting behind this desk that knew what they were doing, that wouldn't have happened. They would have said, well, you can sell your car here, but we're going to put 100% tariff, and you would have never had the auto industry leave. Again, we lost more than 50% of our auto industry, and now it's all coming back, and I think it's coming back. Ultimately, it's going to be bigger. I believe it's going to be bigger than it was before, actually, but it's an honor to have you here, and please, would you like to say
Mr.
something?
President,
Thank you very much.
Tom Castrator, sir. I'm the chairman of National Automobile Dealers that represent 18,000 dealers in the country, along with 3,000 heavy-duty truck dealers. And what the actions that you've done as the president and your administration is definitely going to save our customers money. And you made your promises that let the consumer buy what they want, sir, and you delivered on that. And the other thing that you delivered was your promise in the big, beautiful bill, the tax deduction on loans that had gone away some years back.
Right.
And now that makes it affordable for our buyers that can save money through that loan of the tax, anywhere from several hundred to several thousand. So again, sir, on behalf of all the dealers and our customers, we appreciate what you and your administration have done, and of course our legislative support as well, Mr. President.
Thank you. That's very nice. And I'm glad you brought that up. We're allowing people to deduct. So if you go out and buy a car, and this is for middle income, but for lower income, no matter what, They never really had deductions. You know, rich people like deductions, but middle-income people were never really afforded deductions, which is very unfair. You borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct the interest from your income tax. And I think that's going to be one of the most, in terms of your industry, I think it's going to be the biggest thing that we're talking about, maybe even bigger than cafe standards. People are going to be able to borrow money, deduct it, so it's going to cost them essentially half. And it'll
help. Yes, sir.
I think it's going to be a tremendous factory. They've never had a chance to do that before. And that's all done. That's all in the great, big, beautiful bill. So it's really terrific. I'd like to ask a couple of our political leaders to say, because you guys have done an amazing job. This was something that was going to be very tough. We had to fight lunatics to get it done, and they had no answers. You know, it's you just present them with the facts, and they just say, well, we're just not going to vote for it. They couldn't talk about it, but they didn't want to vote. I see Mike Kelly, my friend back there, has been with me from day one, right?
Yep.
What do you have to say, Mike?
Well, you know what? I think you hit the key. Everybody's talking about the same thing.
You
In America,
like the way they like each other. You can see, there's no hatred between these two guys.
No, as long as I beat his price. No, but you hit it right on the head. The American people have always been able to choose what they want to buy.
Right.
They don't want to be taken out of a market by people who, quite frankly, don't even drive their own car, is saying this is the way you've got to go going into the future. And say, well, you may say that, but you're not in the market. You have no idea. And I know the business we're in. At the end of the day, if you were there with me, I'd say, so, Mr. President, other than price, what's keeping you from taking the car home today? It's always price. And the fact that we can build a car that's affordable, that people want to buy, that's the key to it. What you've done is unlock the most ridiculous statute that ever came in with CAFE. It wasn't done by the Congress. It wasn't done. It was done by President Obama after the courts failed on it. So thank you for doing what you're doing. You're making America great again in every single way. Thank you.
Thank you. It's going to be so big for the auto manufacturers. People aren't even going to believe the impact this has. You know, Mike used to come to my rallies all the time, and we'd have a rally. It was like 0 degrees. It was freezing everywhere. And he'd sit there without a shirt on. And I didn't need that, you know. I didn't say it was pretty, but he would sit there in the cold and he didn't mind it at all. I said, that's one tough cookie, right?
You lit it up. We didn't need any heat. We were there.
We had a good time. We had a lot of great rallies, right?
We did.
Pennsylvania. Please, Mr. Congressman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I represent the dealer. I'm a dealer, and we got some other dealers in here, but this is huge for the dealer body, the local car dealer. We're going to be able to sell what the customer wants. The manufacturer's going to make what the customer wants. We've got all kinds of options to the big bill. It's going to enable people, as we talked about, to deduct payments and so forth. As we say in the business, they've never been cheaper than they are today, Mr. President. And it's going to be a great opportunity for the dealer body to sell what consumers want. And 99% of the businesses in America are small businesses. Many are car dealers, employ a lot of people. It's going to be a great year for us. We appreciate your leadership. And we appreciate, from a retail standpoint, we appreciate the manufacturers going to step up and build cars that customers want and that we want to sell. So
well, the car makers are happy about this. They're like, yeah, Trump. Oh, yeah.
He was there on the baseball field that horrible day with Steve Scalise and some other people. He was hit, but he took it very well. He took it very well. You're my pal.
Thank you.
That's a great job.
Appreciate it.
Great job. Appreciate it. Kevin, could you say a few words of wisdom? One of the really smart economic forecasters, I will tell you, beyond an economist. He's a real forecaster. Please.
Sir, I think that there's a massive macroeconomic benefit to what we're doing today. And the way to think about it is that the car that has the best gas mileage that you can buy that has only gasoline is a Honda that gets about 36 miles per gallon. Joe Biden wanted to make every car
Kia, what's up?
50. So there's no car made in the U.S. that you would be able to sell 2 years from now, 3 years from now under that rule, because what he wanted to do was make everybody have an electric car, as you know. But here's the thing, that if everybody had an electric car, then nobody would be buying gasoline anymore, and they'd have to take all the miles that they travel and put it on the grid. And so we would have to increase the production of electricity in the U.S. by 25% over the next couple of years if they had their way. And so you've really stopped a massive disruption for the economy with this. So thank you, sir.
That wasn't the main reason, and yet it certainly is a main reason. You wouldn't have been able to do it even if you wanted it. It's just so crazy. That was the mandate, which we ended. Troy, would you like to say something?
Great honor. Thank you. My family is a former dealer, 48 years, Chrysler Dodge dealer. And then I got into the political world, sir. I had more fun in the dealership world, but I miss it. But I still play a big role in automobiles and grateful. I remember under President Obama when the CAFE standards changed, as Mike brought up, and going through those challenging times as a Chrysler dealer before Stellantis came along. It was Daimler before you guys got it. So thank you very much for being here and making these changes. And as you said, that interest on the car loan piece is big. And I know that Bernie led the charge on that in the Senate and get it into one big, beautiful bill. That really is a big deal, and people need to understand how big a deal that is.
They did a great job. And by the way, we had a great victory last night.
Kind of like our race.
He's going to be a great congressman. I think so. Really, like us, right?
Yeah, like us.
One of my early endorsements, right?
Yes, sir.
Can we talk about it? You're right there is a man. Come in. Let me say hello to you. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. But the thing I've admired most, you've been in business, you've been in the battles over the years, and you're helping us lead us out. Most people that are up here have no idea about business or small business. It makes a big difference. And one is. Number two is, I would just say in terms of the tax stuff we're talking about, one of the things that get missed, and I'm in Florida, Sarasota region, is the ability to deduct. Most people have a small business, they'll have a lawn business, they'll have this, that, they buy a new or used truck. They can take that deduction, let's say they're in a 20% tax bracket, but the vehicle's 60 grand. They can take 20% of the 60 grand, get a $12,000 write-off. They can pay their payments for the first year. That's a powerful tool we don't talk about. I don't know why, but at the end of the day, because of what you've put in place, full expensing, that's the tool that would use. And you could just think about all the people in Florida, general places. They're buying old vans or new vans, they're buying trucks, mainly trucks, and they're getting a deduction. They don't even have a payment for a year.
That's right.
So it's one of the best things for
one
Florida.
of the biggest things in the
expensing is a powerful tool. They can write the whole asset off first year, take that deduction, put $12,000 in their pocket on a $20,000. Let me mention one other thing. They got into the e-vehicles, electric cars. And I'm talking to dealers that come in and talk to me. And basically, they couldn't sell one. They couldn't give one away. And when these companies, or they got in because of whatever political pressure under the Biden administration, and they end up realizing that they got no market. A guy says, the car's been sitting there a year. I can't get rid of it. So they don't understand the market.
Lose money on building 2 or 3 electric cars that they couldn't sell in order to make some money on the 150, because the 150 is a monster. I'll tell you what, that no matter where you go, they love that Ford 150.
Yes. It powers. Hold on.
Ridiculous model when you have to build 2 or 3 cars that you know you're not going to be selling or not be.
Can y'all hear me out there? Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know if y'all can hear me. Some reason the video paused. Hold on. Let me bring it back. Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know if y'all can hear me. All right, let me bring the video back. For some reason, it paused. I don't know why.
Selling for much in order to really do something that you should have the right to do, which is make a car that you want to make. Yes. And that the market wants, right? So congratulations on the 150.
Thank you. Best-selling vehicle in the United States.
Just saying.
Let's get Charles Johnson up out of here talking about shut up. No, you shut up. We'll holler at you, Charles. You know what I'm saying? Unsafe journey to wherever you going. We'll holler at you.
100% built in the United States.
Now it's only going to do no, but it really is. It's amazing. It's an amazing brand.
There was a lot of stupid things done here.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, I thank you, Mr. President, and Secretary Duffy, and all of us. You know, one of the last times I was here is when you signed the electric vehicle CRA, Congressional Review Act, that all of us participated in. The beginning of really making common sense, because it was going to impact 17 other states and really a large part of our economy. This is about affordability here. I'm just going to say one thing. Well, maybe I already said one thing, so now I'm going to say 2 things. When we talk about a car and auto, we sort of talk about just, oh, we need a car. Do you know what a car does for a family? You can take your children to school. You can go to the store. You can visit your mother. You can go to church. You can have a job. You have the flexibility that you need. A car for an American family is about a roadway to prosperity.
Big deal.
It's a big deal. And so by making them more affordable, making them more choice driven by what families want and need, today is a great day for the American family.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And the American worker.
Say.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and Secretary Duffy, and to my colleagues that are here. In Tennessee, we make great automobiles, and we have a fantastic workforce. And whether you're GM or Ford, with their new investment in Tennessee, or Nissan or VW or Toyota with the engine plant, what you see is the components that are necessary to build these cars. And removing these standards and making cars more affordable does mean that more people will purchase them, but it also means we're going to have to make more cars to meet that demand. And for Tennessee, that is a great thing.
So, you know, I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, like, we have the biggest auto manufacturers in the world. They're talking about investing billions and they're investing it as we speak, but billions and billions of dollars in our country. Thank you very much. And they're here. They're not like, well, maybe we'll do it. They're doing it because of tariffs, and they're doing it because of maybe they like the president, and we're doing things like this for them, which frankly, no matter who you are, this should be done. And we're doing things like deductibility of interest. When you borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct it from your income tax. That is a massive tax cut for people that probably are going to be trying to buy that car anyway. And I really think that that interest factor is going to be one of the biggest things. What I was proud of that because I thought of it and it seems so simple. Other people are allowed big interest. If you're a rich person, you're allowed to have big interest deductions for different things you do. But if you're a middle income person that has to buy a car, you were never entitled to anything. And now you're getting a full interest deduction on the loan. And I think that's going to have one of the biggest impacts. But we're here with companies that are investing tens of billions of dollars in our country as we speak. It's not going to be in 2 years or 3 years. A lot of it's because of the expensing provision in the bill, the big, beautiful bill. But a miracle is happening in our country. It's a miracle. This is just the auto industry, but we have other industries where it's the same thing. They're building all over our country, and this is a revolution is happening. It's a business revolution. It's a jobs revolution. It's a car revolution. We're bringing back the car industry that was stolen from us because we have people that didn't know what they were doing sitting at this desk. They put the wrong people in because they weren't advised properly. And this is really an incredible thing that's happening. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And I think in many respects, pretty much everything that could be said has been, except that I think what Kevin talks about in terms of the cascading economic opportunity from this one single event is just the tip of the iceberg. When you think of all the rules and regulations that you have repealed, I think it's more important, frankly, than the tax cuts. However, in the Working Family Tax Cuts Act, remember we made permanent a lot of really good policy from the first Trump era, not the least of which for small businesses is bonus depreciation, the opportunity to depreciate the year that you purchase an F-150 for your small business or a large truck for your farm. I just think we're going to roll into 2026 and we're going to see an escalation of economic opportunity, the likes of which I probably have never seen.
I think nobody's ever seen it, nobody in the world, because there's never been 18 or whatever it ends up being. In 10 months, we have $18 trillion being invested. We never had $1 trillion being invested. And Biden had much less than that. Think of it. He had less than $1 trillion over 4 years. We have 18 trillion in 10 months. And it's actually as of 9 months. So there's never been anything. Eric?
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. And on behalf of the people of the great state of Missouri, who we actually make things from F-15s to F-47s now, thanks to you. We'll be building the F-47 and then F-150s. And those are real jobs. and we make things in Missouri. This is going to go a long way, I think, for making things more affordable for normal people. Nothing could be more American than driving a car on the highway, and this is going to make that more accessible for more people. So thanks for your leadership.
Your state's doing a great job.
Yeah, well, they love you too.
It's a great place. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to talk to you just a minute from a rural perspective,
Okay.
because these cafe standards were absolutely unworkable in rural Missouri. We need vehicles that are practical and affordable and can haul for our small businesses, for agriculture. And it
Shout out to
just
AC
simply
Secure
didn't
for being a
work.
member for the last
Cafe
8
standards didn't
months.
work.
Shout
So I
out to you.
applaud and Secretary Duffy for your hard work and what you're doing on behalf of rural America.
Well, it was keeping a lot of manufacturers out of our country too. They said, "We're not going to." Are you crazy? They thought outside manufacturers thought we were absolutely insane with all of the different things. It was just made up nonsense. It was like made up. It was really made up by people that hate our country. I really believe. Does anybody else have anything to say?
I'd say about two quick things, Mr.
Oh,
President.
no, Bernie, I didn't see.
Two quick things I think are really important. So the person who sat behind this desk before you gave $7,500 in subsidies to multimillionaires who are leasing electric Rolls Royces, electric Porsches, electric Lamborghinis. We're getting $7,500 from the taxpayer. And these Democrats sit on this floor and say that Republicans are for millionaires and billionaires. We are the opposite of giving $7,500 to multi-billionaires to lease foreign electric vehicles. Number two, because of your policies, at the beginning of the year, 51% of the cars sold in America were made in America, 51% before you got sworn in. Last month, that number was 57%. We moved it 6 points, which nobody thought would be possible in 4 years. We did it in 10 months. That's something that maybe the news should cover a little bit more. And we've driven down the price of automobiles. The car prices for consumers are down before you did.
Just about everything is down. You know, this whole thing is, they use the word affordability. It's a Democrat hoax. They're the ones that drove the prices up. And all they do is say affordability. And you're supposed to say, oh, that means they had low prices. No, we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. They say 48 years, but let's say that's history. I don't believe that. Biden had, because of his stupid ways and between his energy policies and his spending policies, we had the worst inflation in the history of our country. And now our prices are coming down, and they're coming down for cars, and they're coming down. I mean, did you hear yesterday when Chris Wright from Energy, the head of energy in our country, said there are now parts of our country, it's all happening, $1.99 for gasoline, a gallon. And we have it at $2.50, $2.60. It was at $5. And that's bigger than any tax cut we could give. And, you know, for the average family, that's considered bigger than any tax cut. So the word affordability, when they mention it, you ever watch them? It's all about, I saw the young lady that lost last night. She lost by a lot more than they thought. And we have a great new candidate in Congress, really great, Matt Van Epps. But I saw last night, she said, it's all about affordability, all about it. They never talk about like the specifics. Right. Everything was through the roof. Eggs, when I took over, eggs were 4 times higher than they ever were. We got the prices down to the lowest level. Yep. I mean, amazing. But they never, you got to watch, they're great con people. It's like the Inflation Reduction Act. And after they got it approved, because everybody said inflation reduction, they admitted it had nothing to do with reducing inflation. It's a con job. I think affordability is the greatest con job. They look at you and they say, affordability. They don't say anything else. Everyone says, oh, their prices were so low. No, they had the worst inflation. We had the highest prices we ever had. And now they're all coming down, including beef is coming down. Beef was up there a little bit. Our ranchers did well, but we got to make them do a little bit less well, perhaps. But the beef is now coming down. Coffee is now coming down. It's all coming down. And it's a beautiful thing to see. But remember this, when they use the word affordability, they just say, they never say anything else. This election's about affordability. And then they go into the next subject. It's a con job. They caused the highest prices in the history of our country, the worst inflation in the history of our country. And we're getting those prices down. And they're coming down rapidly. and you'll see those results very soon. Anybody else want to say a few words? Oh, Ted, I can't believe it.
I'm easy to miss.
It's very rare that I would miss you. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, Mr. President, I want to congratulate you on behalf of everyone here for the leadership that you're showing. And this is a victory today for consumers. This is a victory for affordability. Your critics like to say the word affordability. Under Joe Biden and the Democrats, they put mandate after mandate after mandate on cars and trucks, and they drove the price up thousands and thousands of dollars. And with the actions you're taking today, and you put on top of that the one big beautiful bill, you know, most of the senators here on the Senate Commerce Committee and on the Commerce Committee, we worked together to zero out the CAFE standards. We wrote that into the law that the CAFE standards went to zero. What does that mean? It means you can now, as a consumer, buy the car you want. It also means people's lives will be safer, because what these regulations did is they forced cars to be more expensive and made of plastic instead of steel, because you had to make them lighter to comply with these standards. So you'd get in a wreck and people would die. The result of what you're doing, you're literally saving people's lives, and you're making it where families can afford to get a new car. These actions will drop the cost of cars and trucks thousands of dollars. That makes a real difference. And I'll make one final point. You know, about half the members here are car dealers. And I will say my good friend Roger Williams out in the lobby, he tried to sell me a car, which didn't surprise me, but I just want to give props to Mike Kelly. He showed he was savvier because he tried to sell you a car, and you can afford a much nicer car than I can. So well done, Mike. Roger, you just went to the wrong customer.
I was $100 cheaper.
The thing that Ted just said, it's true. Plastic instead of steel. Think of that. And people died because of that. The plastic was plastic in an auto accident, and it broke up, and people were shattered because of that crazy deal. But it's a really good point. Go ahead.
And Mr. President, I'll tell you, the Senate Commerce Committee on January 14th, we're going to have a hearing with all of the big three there and Tesla. And the entire hearing is going to focus on how your leadership has reduced the burdens on car makers. That's lowering costs. That's giving consumers more choices, and it's producing more jobs in America. And it's highlighted that's a real record of success.
Yeah, well, it's an honor. And, you know, they were going by California. We had like 2 different countries, California and 15 that followed California, because you had 15 states follow California. And the rules from California were just like everything else. That's why people are leaving. That's why it's such a mess. It's got there's a state with such unbelievable potential. But what they did with the car industry is incredible. And that was, you know, the car companies didn't know what to do because they had 2 standards, and you can't build 2 different cars for the same country. And what we're doing today is very big. Would anybody like to say something? Would you like to say something, my friend?
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. And we love you, Brian.
Oh, I love you too, Mr. President. I've always said
he's a good man.
Well, I appreciate that. I've always said you've tackled the three M's: mortgage, munchkins, and marriage. You've solidified all of those. I'll add motor vehicles to that now. My question, I got one about consumer confidence. We just came off on the record high Black Friday, up 9.1%.
Highest ever, biggest amount ever purchased in one day. Yep.
Which I think counters this narrative of affordability, because apparently the Americans are spending money. So I want to see, how do you view that for a consumer confidence being so high going into Christmas and going into next year? And I do have one for the auto group after you.
I just think that we have tremendous confidence in the country. You know, one of the things in terms of confidence, if you go back a year and a half, you know, it's amazing. We're like into 10 months already, but you go back a little bit before the election, because after November 5th, it started changing rapidly, even though we weren't running it until January 20th. But when you look back and you look at the enlistment of soldiers, people that wanted to join the military, the Army, Navy, the Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, it's like booming. It's all Space Force. But we had the worst recruitment in the history of our country. A year later, we have the greatest recruitment in the history. You can't even get in. Getting in is like getting into a top college that you couldn't get in. People want to be in the service now, and that includes the police, environment, other things. You couldn't hire police. You couldn't hire anybody in the Army or the Navy. You couldn't get people in. And we now have gone from that to record recruitment. We're getting high quality people, amazing people wanting to be in the military. They have a spirit now, call it what you want, but that's part of it. But they have great spirit now. It's a great thing. Go ahead, ask your second question.
Okay, my second question, I've got a lot of close family friends in the automotive business, own dealerships all across Southern California. They sent me a question to ask you. There's a thing called a mileage blocker that is installed on vehicles. It's a type of a computer chip which alters the actual mileage driven on the vehicle, so that when you have a leased vehicle that's turned in, they're losing thousands of dollars. They've got to go chase down these manufacturers. What can we do to track down these manufacturers of this illegal computer chip that's really hurting automotive industry?
Have you heard about this?
Yes, sir. They're getting built in China, and most of them are coming out of Great Britain, sir. They're being distributed through China, through distributors selling them online through Great Britain. Yes, sir.
Wow, that's not so good. What do you think?
Look at that.
Bernie, do you know anything about that?
It works on older vehicles, and obviously, we got to do a better job.
Yeah, I think it's something I've never heard of. It. Very good. We never heard of it. That's pretty good.
Mr. President, you released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release. No problem. We stopped every boat we knock out. We save 25,000 American lives.
That's right.
And if you look at our numbers, the drugs coming in through sea are down 91%. I'm surprised there's 9%. I don't know who's doing the 9%, but it's down 91, and we're going to start very soon on land, and I'm sure you're thrilled to hear that.
So Mr. President, on Ukraine, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were there last night with Vladimir Putin. Can you give us an update about those talks? It sounds from what the Kremlin is saying that they're not going to compromise. Can you tell us what you've?
I don't know what the Kremlin's doing. I can tell you that they had a reasonably good meeting with President Putin. We're going to find out. It's a war that should have never been started. It's a war. If I were president, we had a rigged election. If I were president, that war would have never happened. It's a terrible thing. But I thought they had a very good meeting yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. It's, when I was in this office and I talked about no cards, I said, you have no cards. That was the time to settle. I thought that would have been a much better time to settle. But they, in their wisdom, decided not to do that. They have a lot of things against them right now. But you have President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take two to tango. Ukraine, I think we have something pretty well worked out with them. They're very satisfied, considering. But the sad part is, if I were president, no war would have ever happened. They would have had 100% of their territory. Nothing would have happened. It's a very sad situation. So think of this. Last month, 27,000 soldiers. 27. That's like you take a stadium, a football stadium, not an arena, and you cut it in half. 27,000 people died. Mostly young soldiers died last month, in 1 month. And that's the only reason I'm involved. We're not spending any money in the war. We're selling to NATO. We're not being ripped off like we were under Biden. Biden was handing everybody everything we had, giving them all the missiles, everything they wanted, free, no charge. So he had no idea what he was doing. They're paying top dollar, full price for everything. Goes to NATO, and then NATO distributes it. NATO pays us. So it's not money. We would all, I think I can speak for everyone behind here. The politicians I know and the auto manufacturers are good people. They don't want to see 27,000 people die for no reason whatsoever. And that's the only reason I'm trying to help. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, switching to Venezuela for a second. Have you checked back with President Maduro? I mean, is your pressure campaign working? And do you think, how's he responded to your demand that he leave the country?
It's not pressure campaign. It's much beyond that, I think. But I spoke to him briefly, just told him a couple of things. We'll see what happens with that. Venezuela sends us drugs, but Venezuela sends us people that they shouldn't be sending. They emptied their prisons into our country. They sent us killers, murderers. They sent us drug dealers at the highest level. They sent us gang members. They sent us people from their mental institutions. They emptied their mental institutions into our country. And so did other countries, because we had stupid people running this country, really stupid people. And I think probably you had some stupid ones and you had some smart ones, but there were bad people too. Because not all of them were stupid. You can't cheat on elections like they did and be stupid, okay?
Did you talk to him a second time or just that one time?
What's that?
To Majoro, did you speak to him again?
No, I didn't.
Mr. President, if you do when you spoke with Mr. Witkoff and with Mr. Kushner
Last night,
did they give you the sense that President Putin still wants to end the war, still wants to make peace?
He would like to end the war. That was their impression. Now, whether or not, that was their impression. Their impression was that he would like to see the war ended. I think he'd like to get back to dealing a more normal life. I think he'd like to be trading with the United States of America, frankly, instead of, losing thousands of soldiers a week. But their impression was very strongly that they'd like to make a deal. We'll see what happens.
Mr. President, the boat strikes, if it is found that survivors were actually killed while clinging onto that boat, should Secretary Hegseth, Admiral Bradley, or others be punished?
I think you're going to find that this is war, that these people were killing our people by the millions, actually, if you look over a few years. I think last year we lost close to 300,000 people were killed. That's not mentioning all the families. Have you seen what happens with the families of not only the people killed, the people that are trying to get their son or their daughter off of this poison that they've been fed? I think you're going to find that there's a very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats. And very soon we're going to start doing it on land too, because we know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture. Very soon on land also. Yeah, please.
So to be clear, you support the decision to kill survivors after the
No, I support the decision to knock out the boats, and whoever is piloting those boats, most of them are gone, but whoever are piloting those boats, they're guilty of trying to kill people in our country. Yeah, please.
House Judiciary Committee has subpoenaed Jack Smith to ask about his investigation of you. I wondered, for a deposition, I wondered if you'd prefer to see that as a hearing so that the American public can see the questions and the responses more easily.
I'd rather see it probably at a hearing. Look, Jack Smith is a thug. He's a failed prosecutor. He's a bad man. He's an evil man. He hurt a lot of people. Forget about me. I do this stuff, but I got indicted many times by a guy that they were dismissed. He's a bad guy. He's a sick man. There's something wrong with him, actually. I think Jack Smith is a sick man. There's something really wrong with him. I'd rather see him testify publicly because there's no way he can answer the questions. But Biden knew this was going along. Kamala knew it was going along. And there's a lot of things happening right now that they don't like. One of the things is the auto pen. Everything he signed, almost, with the exception of the pardon of his wonderful son, Hunter, just about everything he signed was not signed by him. He had no knowledge of it. He didn't know what it was. People sitting around the beautiful Resolute desk knew exactly what it was. And those people are guilty, in my opinion, of a major crime. Everything that was signed by that auto pen, the man operating the auto pen, and I'm sure there are more than one because I think some of the people can operate it themselves. Some of the high-level people operated themselves. They would just go in and sign his name with an auto pen onto very important documents, not only pardons, but policy, maybe cafe standards. Okay, as an example, who signed cafe? If you ask Biden, what's a cafe standard? He would have absolutely no idea. He'd say, where is the cafe located? The guy didn't know anything. Look, that just shows you what a rigged election can be. But you understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
You've had conversations.
I did. With Jensen.
Right. So
smart man.
In your conversations with him, have you kind of given a sense of where you are with export controls and the types of ships that NVIDIA can give to China?
He knows very well. He's done an amazing job. NVIDIA, very good. Yeah.
Mr. President, when do you expect for phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan to be implemented? And
Well, it's going along well. They had a problem today, I understand, with a bomb that went off. Hurt some people pretty badly, probably killed some people. They're telling me it just happened. but it's going under. We have peace in the Middle East. People don't realize it. We have tremendous support. 59 countries. There's tremendous support. But phase 2 is moving along. Yeah, it's going to happen pretty soon.
Mr. President, did you speak with House Republican leadership about your decision to pardon Congressman Henry Cuellar? And are you concerned that you made a vulnerable Democrat perhaps less vulnerable with that decision?
It didn't matter. He's a respected person. He was treated very badly because he said that people should not be allowed to pour into our country. And he was right. He didn't like open borders. He was on the border. You know, he represents a very respected man. He represents the people on the border, and he saw what was happening. And as soon as he made that statement, I then said, I'll bet he gets indicted. And that's what happened. You know, I put out my truth from that. Well, I did a truth, wonderful truth. We love truth. But what happened is he got indicted for speaking the truth. And his wife got indicted, Imelda. And that's sort of a first. Usually they leave the wives alone, right? Don't they, Congressman? Typically they indict somebody, put him in jail for the rest of his life, but the wife can just sit home and cry, or she'll find a new man. You know? A lot of times they find a new man that makes them much happier. In fact, a lot of times they like that man better than the one that's in jail.
Mr. President, thank you. The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief.
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also
I
saying
wouldn't be proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, you know, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Walz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with, go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution. All she does is complain about this country. And without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now. So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon. I hope. But what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable. And a lot of it starts with the governor. A lot of it starts with Barack Hussein Obama, because that's when people started coming in. And you have to have people come in that are going to love our country, cherish our country. They want to kiss our country goodnight. They talk about our country. We want them to pray for our country. This is not the people living in Minnesota. And she's a disaster. She should not be, and her friends shouldn't be allowed. Frankly, they shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople, okay? They shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople because they don't represent the interests of our country. Anybody else?
Mr. President, the automakers spent billions on meeting the Biden EV rules. Should they be able to recoup that somehow, given the change? And there's a question about the
doing it. No. I'm not letting them recoup. They're going to do just fine. You know how they recoup? From this point forward, they'll do very well.
Can you also talk about the USMCA and what you're thinking about renegotiating that with the automakers?
Well, that's just an ongoing thing. It expires in about a year, and we'll either let it expire or we'll maybe work out another deal with Mexico and Canada. But look, Mexico and Canada have taken advantage of the United States, like just about every other country, in all fairness. It's not them. I'm not blaming them. But every country, because we had stupid people running our country. We had a lot of stupid people running. That's why we have $38 trillion in debt. But the beautiful thing about the tariffs is we'll start paying off that debt. The money coming in, they're finding money in our country now that they never knew existed. The other day, $30 billion. Where did it come from? I said, why don't you check the tariff show? They said, sir, that tariff hasn't started yet. It doesn't start till January. I said, no, it started 2 months ago. They called back, sir, you're right. It was from tariffs. No, we have a whole different country. I hope the Supreme Court, I pray that the Supreme Court understands the importance of the sensible, really, I mean, this would be country threatening if something happened with regard to that. You know, the people that brought that case are bad people. They're very bad people. They hate our country. They represent foreign countries, including China, but they represent, and China's paying us a lot of money now in tariffs, but they represent people that really don't like our country much. And I know some of them, and they're scum. In my opinion, they're scum. They're absolute scum. And they're not suing for any good reason. They're just suing to see if they can stop it because they make money if this country does badly. You know? So, but we're taking in trillions of dollars. We're stopping wars. We have great national security because of tariffs. And then to think that we have to even go and justify this. The reason a lot of these people, I can tell you this, maybe we would have had the political people. We wouldn't have these people without tariffs. The people that are up here from Stellantis and Ford and General Motors, great companies, including this gentleman, right? They wouldn't be here today if we didn't have tariffs. They'd be building their plants in Mexico and other places. They're leaving Mexico and they're leaving Canada. They're leaving because they ripped off our country. They took our businesses away from us. And now because of tariffs, they're all coming back. So it's a great thing. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, you call Somalians garbage.
They sure get excited towards the end every time. They go, hey, go a bunch of talking go to being had every time at the end. So what do y'all think about what Trump had to say, guys? You know, yeah, he said a lot, mostly about the car industry, guys. We're getting some kind of brand new car that's coming in. You know, basically they're about to, you know, save us a lot of money on cars. You know, that's what I got from that whole situation right there. You know, positive vibes. Lord, have mercy, Jesus. All of that waiting, you know, just to hear him get up there, you know, and talk about some cars, guys. And basically rolling back a lot of what Biden put into place, you know, when it comes to cars. He said a lot of nothing. Oh, man, look at him. I freaking love him, okay? Go President Trump. All right, in woke age of, oh, my goodness. I believe it. Okay, all right. With no evidence to back up anything up as usual, okay? Yeah, man, all these ball rappers licking his taint. Okay. I know what you was talking about. What's up, Yana? Yeah, man, it's a lot going on. He trying to get back. He trying to get back at Elon. Yeah, he most definitely made a couple of comments about those electric cars and Trump, him saying that Biden them wanted everybody to switch to electric cars, in which we know Elon, you know, most definitely makes electric cars. Yeah, so you know, looks like they're gonna take the emissions test thingy up off of there. You know, from what I see, there are no evidence to say he is lying. The facts match Trump word. Okay. Jim Jones juice, no joke. I bet, man. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys. Fence, my friend. Okay, he's lying. What's new? Oh man, Lord have mercy, man. Yeah, I see that a lot of y'all are not in agreement to what Trump be talking about. Man, listen, I ain't heard too much lately about the Epstein files either. That's another thing. It kind of like disappeared. I think Bundy and them shouldn't have much more time before they have to release those, right? We hear you. Okay, yeah, you know, I love this channel. I love you too, man. You know what I'm saying? Most definitely make sure you subscribe if you are not, you know, and if you love me a lot, you know, copy your membership. You can go to the description of any video that I have up, publicly available to watch, you can go to the description box, and most definitely it's a link in there to get you a membership to become a member of the channel, guys. They say bootlicking channel. Sassy, shut up. Ain't nobody bootlicking nothing. This channel right here is unbiased. We show everything from the Democrats to the Republicans and all of that. We ain't licking nobody boots, and we ain't on nobody's side. We present the information as we get it, and leave it up to you to decide whether you want to go along with what's being said or not. But we most definitely ain't licking nobody boots over here. I show what the Republicans say as well as the Democrats. If somebody got something they want to give say against Trump, I let them say what they're going to say against Trump. And then if Trump gives a rebuttal, then I play what Trump said as a rebuttal to what they were saying. So, yeah, we ain't licking no boots, and we most definitely unbiased on this channel, man. I appreciate everybody who pulled up, man. If you did not, make sure you double tap that screen, hit that like button. Most definitely that's how you do that, or click those 3 dots in the right-hand corner, hit that thumbs up. What's up, QI? Yeah, hit that thumbs up. That's another way to like the channel. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel, man. We've been in here 3 hours. We was waiting on Trump. He took forever. What man wears makeup? A clown. Lord have mercy, Jesus. What's up, Cleveland? Yeah, man. Shout out to everybody in the building. What's up, Ballin? She say replay gang. Already, QI, make sure you run it back, man. Peak Hexef, he's most definitely under fire right now, and that was a lot of what today's live was about, with the backlash over him, them saying that he initiated the second strike against we walking down that 57K, man. We're gonna be there before you know it, man. Got a goal of 100K subscribers, man. We are at 57,000 right now. Well, we at 56.7 or something like that K subscribers. That's why I encourage anybody that's not subscribed to subscribe to the channel, man. Over here on Everything News, we most definitely bring you all the latest and breaking news, as well as updates to cases and things of that nature, news that you may have heard, or haven't heard, so make sure you subscribe, man. I'm in, player, already, man. I most definitely broadcast daily, man. So if you're looking for your fix of news, whether it's celebrity news, hip-hop news, politics, or world news, man, we got it all right here on Everything News. So make sure y'all tap in with me. Thankfully, he getting rid of the electric car laws. Yeah, most definitely. So some people feel like, Pete Hexef is guilty and may have committed a war crime. Other people say he's not guilty. He didn't do anything wrong, and according to him, he wasn't the one that gave that order, nor did he ever say unalive everybody. He said that was propaganda that was being pushed out by the news. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. Hey, I'm not here to go back and forth with anybody on their opinion or their beliefs, man. I just put the information forward. You go do your own research. I know a lot of people don't trust news channels, so they take a lot of information that's being put out and they go research it on their own and come up with their own conclusion. Feel free to go do that, if you're one of those people that does that. All right, so with that being said, man, shout out to all of my subscribers, the old ones as well as the new ones. Shout out to all of my members, man. My new members as well as my old members, my long-standing members. I most definitely appreciate all of y'all. I watch the news every day already. He say every day. They be getting on me about speaking my way of speaking English. I said every day, and he said every day. They'll be like, yeah, man, said politically correct, They'll start calling me black. Oh, you must be a black guy. Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's a black guy. Oh my God. He said instead of every. So anyway, yeah, man, that's besides the point. But either way, man, I most definitely present the news on the daily over here on this channel. So if you like this brand of entertainment, man, make sure that you tap in with me and most definitely come get your fix of the news, guys. Shout out to all of my moderators, man. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. We be having a crowd over here from time to time. time it most definitely takes for y'all to basically keep them in line, you know, erasing, deleting, and blocking folks on a daily basis, you know, that's disrespectful to the channel. I appreciate y'all as well. Exactly. That's besides the point. You speak your mind. Truth is the truth. Already, man. You know, we most definitely not racist over on this channel. I accept everybody as long as you're respectful, you know, with your comments towards me as well as your comments towards others. Everybody has a voice. Everybody gets to get their opinion off over here as long as it's respectful. Don't be getting on anybody that doesn't think like you do. We're most definitely human. Everybody had their own mind. They take and break down things differently, you know, so I respect everybody's opinion, you know, as long as they respect the mine. Shout out from Vegas, my man. Shout out to Vegas, man. I'm located in Texas. The mega research is finding bogus information they already believe is true, not research confirmation bias. Okay, all right, bet. Decency, respect, and mercy. Okay, all right. Shout out from Compton, man. Shout out to Cali in the building, man. You know, most definitely. Shout out to Compton, man. You know, shout out to Texas because that's my location. But anyway, I ain't gonna keep y'all in here too much longer. We already been in here almost 4 hours. It's time to go. You know, I'm ready to go eat. You know, I've been on here for 4 hours. You know, the normal time is like an hour and a half to 2 hours. But waiting on Trump kept us in here 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours already. So yeah, I'm gonna let y'all get back to y'all day. If anything else pops up in the news that I think is worth broadcasting, I most definitely press that button. So if you subscribe to the channel already, make sure that you set your notification bell to all. That way you don't miss anything when everything news goes live. Man, y'all be safe out there. With that being said, Sidewalk Gang checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one, man. Y'all be safe out there. I'm gone.